Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Civil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you enjoy this legal educational content. And today is the first day that I earned that subscription. For today's coverage, we are dealing with an indictment that just came down by a federal grand jury in relation to federal charges against Donald Trump and Waltine Nata. Whoever that is, I suppose we'll learn. This is in relation to the documents that were kept at Mar-a-Lago in relation to that raid that occurred at Mar-a-Lago some time ago. That investigation has obviously been ongoing and has ultimately matured in an indictment, which was released today. The arraignment isn't supposed to occur till Tuesday. I wasn't expecting the indictment itself to come out till then, but I suppose they released it early because, well, blood's already in the water. Donald Trump's already talking about it. So I suppose they released it because, of the special situations at hand. We can see that there's an indictment relating to several different offenses of U.S. law. You can see the citations right there at the top, 18 U.S.C., and then various section numbers. 18 U.S.C. is the criminal code. So that is the one you would primarily expect to see. You can be charged with crimes in other sections of the law, obviously, but 18 U.S.C. is where most of the crimes are. So if you're a criminal, you're probably 18 U.S.C. Anyways, we need to read this indictment, see what the factual basis is for the indictment, and try to tease out what possible issues and defenses that there might be relating to this. So this is obviously going to be a brand new, fresh read right off the bat. And so some of my analysis may be a little bit thin as we try to understand what's going on, but let's try to understand what's going on as we get started with this. All right, so this, of course, is as a result of a grand jury. Grand juries are required by the Constitution for the federal government in any case that bears more than, I believe it's 6 months, or maybe it's a year. I forget exactly which the threshold is. But either way, this is more than that, right? This is not a 6 month or 1 year prison term. This is not a misdemeanor. These are several different felonies. So a grand jury is required. Grand juries, just by way of reminder to people, grand juries are kind of a poor name for what it is, at least in my view. The jury that you're probably more familiar with is called a petit jury. That's the 12 people that ultimately sit in the box at the end of the day to decide the case. Those 12 people have to agree unanimously on the ultimate question of guilt, and they have to agree at a standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the standard that you're more familiar with a petit jury. All right. A grand jury is a completely different thing. Kind of a bad name for it in my view because they're so different. A grand jury is typically somewhere between 12 and 23 people. You only need 12 of them to vote to agree. So if you have all 23, you just need one more than half. All right. So you only need 12 out of the 23 to agree. And they only have to agree to the probable cause standard. It's the standard required to bring a charge. It's the standard required to arrest, essentially, probable cause. Right. So you don't need much because it's a very early part of the case. It's an investigation tool. So as they say, you can indict a ham sandwich because, well, what does an officer on the beat need to arrest somebody is basically what a grand jury is doing, and you only need half of them to agree at all anyway. But grand juries also are notable because they have other investigative tools. Grand juries can issue subpoenas. Grand juries can get documents. Grand juries hear live witnesses, although only typically witnesses offered by the prosecution. They only hear from prosecution-related witnesses, again, because it's an investigation tool. So the defense doesn't participate in grand juries with some limited exceptions. So just a little bit of background about grand juries and what they are. So just in case you care. Anyways, Donald Trump is the 45th president of the United States of America. He held office from January the 20th, 2017 until January the 20th of 2017. As president, Trump had lawful access to the most sensitive classified documents and national defense information gathered and owned by the U.S. government, including information from agencies that compromise the United States intelligence community and the United States Department of Defense. Well, not to put too fine a point on it, but as president of the United States, he doesn't exactly have access to the most sensitive classified documents. He has access to all the documents because the president of the United States by law is the ultimate classification authority. And also the president of the United States by law has unilateral authority to declassify. So yeah, he has access to the most secure stuff because he has access to all the things because he is the classification authority. There's no one better than him. So yeah, classification don't mean nothing to the president of the United States, as you might expect. So sure, yes, he had information from the intelligence community and literally anything else he wanted to see. Over the course of his presidency, Trump gathered newspapers, press clippings, letters, notes, photographs, official documents, and other materials in cardboard boxes that he kept at the White House. Among the materials Trump stored in boxes were hundreds of classified documents. Okay. Well, that part of the story sounds somewhat familiar to other people who have had classified documents found in their house. So that part of the story rings somewhat true. The classified documents Trump stored in the boxes include information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. Well, this is going to be fun because the administration, if they want to bring this case, is going to have to like share the information with the jury. So that how much do you want to be classified is going to be a fun question for the prosecution of this, all right? So yeah, all right. Because you need to know what the documents are in order to know if they're classified and stuff, right? So yeah, that could be interesting. That'll lead to a whole can of worms dealing with the question of what the jury will and will not be allowed to see when it comes to classified material. Total pain in the ass. Well beyond our time right now. Anyways, the unauthorized disclosure of these classified documents could put at risk the national security of the United States, foreign relations, the safety of the United States military and human sources, and continued viability of sensitive information. Well, if they're properly classified, then by definition, yes. They can only be classified because they would cause damage and a risk of damage to the United States. They have to cause the risk of harm for secret and grave harm for top secret if memory serves correctly. So yes, assuming they're properly classified by definition, they would have to cause harm to the United States. Otherwise, they're not properly classified. So in some ways, that's just tautological. At 12 o'clock on January the 20th of 2021, Trump ceased to be president. As he departed the White House, Trump caused scores of boxes, many of which contained classified documents, to be transported to Mar-a-Lago, where he maintained his residence. Trump was not authorized to possess or retain those classified documents. Well, that's not quite true, grand jury, because as memory serves, and maybe my memory is slightly faulty, but I believe Trump had moved all of his stuff out of the White House before January 20th at noon. I seem to recall that he moved everything to Mar-a-Lago like 3 days before January 20th. I mean, it's been a while, but I seem to vaguely recall that he had moved his stuff to Mar-a-Lago before January 20th. So before January 20th at noon, he was fully authorized to possess them because, again, he's the commander in chief, he's the president of the United States, and is the ultimate classification authority. So, of course, he's authorized to possess them. So at the time he moved them to Mar-a-Lago, was he authorized to possess and retain them? I think actually the answer is yes, at the time he moved them. So I'm not sure this is correct uh, in sort of the timeline, but okay. The Mar-a-Lago Club was an active social club, debatable, which between January 21 and August 2022 hosted events for tens of thousands of members and guests. After Trump's presidency, the Mar-a-Lago Club was not an authorized location for storage, possession, review, display, or discussion of classified documents. I mean, it wasn't a skiff, probably. And I don't know how that deals with former presidents' offices. Because I believe, because the president of the United States and the ex-president of the United States, one of the benefits you get by being ex-president of the United States is you get an office paid for by taxpayers. I believe he had designated part of Mar-a-Lago to be his official office. So I'm not sure how that deals with those issues, but we'll press past that for the moment. Nevertheless, Trump stored his boxes containing classified locations at various locations in Mar-a-Lago, including in a ballroom, a bathroom, a shower, office space, his bedroom, and a storage room. Yeah. I mean, it's not ideal, but I will point out the obvious, which is that Mar-a-Lago being the home of both the president and former president, as dependent as your time frame, was under the constant guard of the United States Secret Service, because the president of the United States and the ex-president of the United States are guaranteed life Secret Service protection. So, I mean, it's not exactly a SCIF, which, by the way, means a sensitive compartmentalized information facility. It's SCIF, in case I use the acronym several times without actually specifying what it is. A SCIF is a sensitive compartmentalized information facility. It's a facility that's designed for the discussion and disclosure of classified information. Among other things, it prevents electronic eavesdropping, prevents radio waves from entering or leaving, prevents, there are rules for entering it to prevent people from bringing spying devices and so forth and so on. So just because I used the acronym a couple times, I thought I'd clarify it. So it's not a skiff, but it's not exactly in an open place that anyone can just walk into willy-nilly. So there's that. Um, and by saying it's in a ballroom, a bathroom, a shower, an office space, bedroom, and storage room, the logical question in my mind is, what was people's access to those places? I'm assuming people weren't regularly showering in the shower in which the documents were stored, because that'd be kind of stupid. I'm assuming this is a shower that people weren't using. So therefore, was this a ballroom people weren't using? Was this a bathroom people weren't using? So I wonder, if people were able to go into those places just out of raw curiosity when I'm trying to determine how much exposure there might have been in fact. So, okay. On two occasions in 2021, Trump showed the classified documents to others as follows. Whether the documents were classified at the time, of course, may be an interest of defense, right? Because Trump, as I've mentioned several times at this point, while he was president, of course, while he was president, has unilateral absolute classification authority. And while there are steps and procedures that can be followed and typically are followed, they're not strictly speaking required. They're not required for the president to declassify. And if you think about the reasons why the president has this authority in the first place, you'll understand why the president doesn't have to go through a formalized procedure. So let's suppose that the United States has done a clandestine military operation in a foreign country. All right. And let's assume that the operation has gone a bit south. And let's assume that that country is kind of pissed. And let's assume that that ambassador is sent to meet with the United States about this incident that occurred and be like, hey, we can't help noticing the United States conducted a clandestine military operation, within our borders. That's kind of an act of war and all. So, what's up with that? Right. So obviously, the president of the United States in this circumstance has a lot of different directions he could go. Right. He could continue to deny it. He could try to put it on someone else. But obviously, as head of state, which is also part of his role, job duties as head of state, right? One of the things the president might choose to do for a perfectly legitimate reason is say, yes, that was us. That was our bad. And then try to say why it was a good thing, why they should be happy. This is why it's a good thing we did this inside your country. You should be happy that we did it inside your country. We were doing it to save you, or whatever our back end rationale is for this, to try to do it. So obviously in that moment, as the ambassador is knocking on the Oval Office's door, as it were, the president of the United States doesn't necessarily have time to draft a memo, right? Or if he's on the red phone with Russia, as it were, can't help noticing that clandestine military operation. I have the armed forces on the other line. What do you want me to tell them? Right. So the president doesn't have time to draft a memo. So the president has this absolute unilateral authority so that he can make he can make the decision for valid reasons to disclose this as part of an oops, our bad strategy. So because of that, you can therefore say that just because he didn't go through the proper mechanism of declassifying does not mean that they weren't in fact declassified. Now, so you could get into the nuance of that. Did he follow the procedure? No. Does that mean that they're not classified? No, it doesn't mean that. It might mean that. It might not mean that. Things get complicated when you're the president of the United States because you're the unilateral classification authority and you can just by your whim make things magically declassified. So, there's that. Anyways, carrying on. So Trump showed documents to others that may or may not be classified. But then again, assuming that Trump, of course, didn't follow the proper procedures, the US government would have no information available to them, but they're classified. So in sort of the government making its prima facie case, the government can make its prima facie case. Let's just assume for the sake of argument, they were properly classified, they're properly marked as classified, and so forth and so on, right? So all that stuff is correct, all right? Let's just assume all that. If all that stuff is true, then from the US government's point of view, assuming that there's not a memo from Trump saying declassify then from the US government's point of view, they're still classified because they have no reason to think any differently. They were classified. They're still marked classified. They're still marked that way. So, from their point of view, it's classified, so they can make their prima facie case. But in terms of whether they are classified or not, could be interesting on the defense. Anyways, pressing on. All right. So he showed documents, let's say marked classified. Let's say that they were marked classified. That doesn't mean they are classified for the exact same reason that I can put classified markings on a document. I can just put the markings on a document. The markings themselves aren't secret. I know what the markings are. You know what the markings are. You can just look them up. I can put the markings on a document. It doesn't make them true. All right. Anyways, pressing on. In July 2021, at Trump National Golf Club in New Jersey, during an audio recording meeting with the writer, a publisher, and two members of the staff, none of whom possessed security clearance, Trump showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by a Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told the individuals the plan was highly confidential and secret. Trump also said, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is still secret. Well, that sort of implies Trump didn't declassify it. But, you could always say that he spoke a little bit imperfectly, right? It wasn't a perfect conversation. So, this shows that Trump is aware the documents are classified, or at least were. He's showing them documents or describing documents that were classified or are, and he could have declassified it, and he can't declassify them now. That much is unambiguously true, because at this point he's not present. So he can't declassify them now. But they're still secret. What do we mean by secret exactly? Do we mean secret in terms of the classification, like secret as opposed to top secret? Do we mean secret that way? Or do we mean secret in some other way? Because the government does have restrictions beyond secret and top secret, for official use only and internal use only and blah, 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 blah. So classification comes in a lot of different flavors. So also he could just be speaking a little bit improperly, but the government seems to be able to make a prima facie case at least. Okay, in August or September 2021, Trump showed a representative of his political action committee who did not possess a security clearance a classified map relating to a military operation, told the representative that he should not be showing it to the representative, and the representative should not get too close. Well, depending on how close he was or not, then maybe he wouldn't be able to see anything that's problematic. So what do we mean by show a document? Did I just show it like from 100 yards away and you couldn't really see anything? So, and okay. And how do they know what map it was? And how does the person who saw it know? Can he recognize the map by sight that it was this map and not a different map? I mean, a lot of maps look kind of similar, right? If you're drawing a map of, I don't know, Afghanistan, for example, it's going to look like Afghanistan. It's going to have different things on the map depending on what you're interested in. But could you, years after the fact, distinguish one map from Afghanistan from a different map of Afghanistan? Particularly as they might be relating to similar subjects. Can you, assuming this is a map of Afghanistan, which I've just assumed out of nowhere for the sake of discussion, but assuming this is a map of discussion or a map of Afghanistan, could you really say that, oh yes, it was definitely this particular map he showed me and not a different map? I mean, okay, how do we know exactly what map it was? Yeah. And also, like, this plan of attack in July 2021, like, what is it exactly? Can they recognize it by sight? Did he describe it? Like, did he say like the serial number of it or something? I mean, how are we identifying exactly what it is he showed them? A little bit vague on that detail. Okay. On March the 30th of 2022, the FBI opened a criminal investigation into the unlawful retention. A federal grand jury began the next month, so that would be April 2022. So a little bit more than a year ago. The grand jury issued a subpoena requiring Trump to turn over documents with classification markings. Trump endeavored to obstruct the FBI and grand jury and conceal by, among other things, suggesting that his attorney falsely represented the FBI and grand jury. Then Trump did not have documents called for by the subpoena. Wow, that could be complicated as hell. What does and does not a subpoena call for is not always 100% clear. What falls within the scope of this subpoena is sometimes argued about, let alone whether the scope should be that wide. So that Trump or his lawyers thought the scope was one thing and supposed to another thing is not exactly an absurd position off its face. So I don't know about that. directing the defendant, Waltine Nata, to move boxes of documents to conceal them from Trump's attorney, the FBI, and the grand jury. You directed them to conceal it for that purpose, as opposed to just moving them around? Hmm. Suggesting his attorneys hide or destroy documents called for by the subpoena. Okay. If we're charging him with conspiracy, it would require the other person to agree, incidentally. So, like, conspiracy to obstruct, if he's suggesting to his attorneys that I don't have things, if he's suggesting his attorneys hide or destroy things, unless they agreed to that, I'm not sure there's a conspiracy. Because who's the other party to the conspiracy? You can't conspire with yourself. There's no conspiracy if there's no agreement. Providing the FBI and grand jury just some of the documents called for while claiming he was cooperating fully. Yeah. Again, this is not exactly uncommon and among attorneys, and the degree to which it's the attorneys acting in bad faith is obviously questionable. But let's just say that attorneys issuing subpoenas are often disappointed with the results that come back. And attorneys that get subpoenas are often aiming to be disappointing. So I don't think we got less than we hoped for necessarily as the basis of a criminal issue. So I don't know about that one, because what are we trying to do? Turn every discovery fight into a criminal violation now? That's that's strange. Okay. Causing certification to be submitted to the FBI and grand jury falsely representing all the documents called for have been produced, while knowing in fact not all such documents have been produced. Dude. I mean, I can't really necessarily speak to this particular case, obviously. But in the set of all cases, the kinds of things that they're describing about is kind of routine for attorneys. Attorneys, as you might expect, somewhat disagree frequently as to what subpoenas call for, what documents are or are not responsive to the subpoena, if the subpoena itself is lawful or overbroad, and a whole shit ton of things. And you get into fights about what is or is not disclosable all the time. Like, discovery fights are just, they're par for the course. Have a case without a discovery fight. You know what I mean? Find me that case without a discovery fight, unless it's simple, right? Unless it's really simple. Show me a case that doesn't have a discovery fight. And now you want to criminalize a discovery fight? That's what sounds like what you're doing here. It's like, yeah, we asked for a whole bunch of things and they didn't give us all the things we thought we wanted. And they asked to hold things back and not turn them over. Is that obstruction? I hope not, man. Because if this is obstruction, man, every attorney's guilty. Uh-oh. Are we all guilty? Did we all do a bad? I don't know, man. I don't know. This maybe in factual reality, it's more ominous than this, but the way it's written sounds like it's a day that ends in Y. So I'm gonna need a lot more on that one, guys. Okay. As a result of Trump's retention of classified documents after his presidency and refusal to return them, hundreds of classified documents were not recovered by the United States government until 2022 as follows. On January 17, nearly 1 year after Trump left office, and after months of demands by National Archives, which doesn't, I believe, have a criminal enforcement mechanism, unless I'm mistaken, which I don't believe I am, for Trump to produce it, Trump has only produced certain things. The NARA does have the right to require the documents, but they don't have a criminal enforcement penalty. So, okay. So we're using our failure to comply with NARA as a factual predicate to a crime? How's that work? On June the 3rd, in response to a grand jury subpoena demanding production, Trump's attorney provided to the FBI 38 more documents with classification markings. Isn't that a good thing? Like, upon further consideration, or we found more documents, or we found more things, and we're continuing to supply you with your subpoena. We found more documents tucked in into the sock drawer. Here are the documents you wanted. We're literally indicting Trump for turning over documents at this point. Really? Okay. On August the 8th, pursuant to a court warrant, the FBI recovered from the office and storage room 102 more documents with classification markings. I'm not real sure about this obstruction of justice charge. This seems questionable to my mind. Defendant Natura was a member of the United States Navy stationed as a valet during the presidency. Beginning August 2021, Nata became an executive assistant of Donald Trump and served as his personal aide or body man. Nata reported to Trump, worked closely with Trump, and traveled with Trump. I hope you have more than that to charge him with a conspiracy. Okay. The Mar-a-Lago Club is staffed by a whole bunch of people and is big. Fine. Between January 21 and August 2022, the Mar-a-Lago Club hosted more than 150 events, including weddings, movie premieres, and fundraisers that drew together tens of thousands of guests. The United States Secret Service provided protection services to Trump and his family, but is not responsible for protection of Trump boxes or its contents. Well, yeah, that is kind of technically true. That's true in technically true is best kind of true sense. But I doubt the Secret Service is just letting people walk through whatever door they want willy-nilly. So yes, technically they're not responsible for the boxes or the box's contents. You think the Secret Service is just letting people enter any door they want? I don't know about that one, but okay. Trump did not inform the Secret Service he was storing boxes containing classified documents. Okay. I don't know that it matters. You think that the Secret Service is just letting people in to the closets where his personal documents are kept? Oh no, the president isn't in this particular closet right now. He's upstairs at his office. And his family isn't in this particular closet. There's no need for the Secret Service to be concerned about who enters this particular closet right now. Gets access to the stuff. The Secret Service has no interest in this whatsoever. Does that sound like the kind of thing the Secret Service would do? It doesn't sound like the kind of thing the Secret Service would do to me. So that seems questionable. The Secret Service vetted every single person who came into the building, right? Plus, probably weren't letting people just go wherever the hell they want, right? Okay, just making sure we're all on the same page here. National security information is owned by, produced by, falls under the control of the U.S. government. Pursuant to an executive order, as amended by an executive order and a different executive order, classification falls into three categories: top secret, secret, or confidential. The classification no foreign means not releasable foreign national, and designated that information limited to United States persons. And also they have other classifications like official use only and no release and other ones too. But yeah, these are the big ones, so that's fine. Classified information relating to intelligence sources and methods and analytical processes was designated as SCI. I don't know if that's a universal policy. I imagine that's frequently true, but I don't know if that's always true or even necessarily true in this case. SCI is to be stored or discussed in accredited SCIFs and only with individual with appropriate clearances and the permissions. It's need to know. So you not only have to have clearance level, you have to have need to know. That's basically what that boils down to. Okay. That's what SCI basically is, need to know. So you not only have to have the clearance level, you have to have a need to know. Usually it's by like project. For example, When vulnerability of or threat to, unless of course you're the president, in which case all rules are void. So, yeah, because you're the chief executive. So, there's that. Anyways, when the vulnerability or threat to specific classified information was exceptional, and normal criteria for determining eligibility access to classified information was insufficient to protect the information from unauthorized disclosure, the United States could establish a special access program to further protect the classified information. Okay. The number of these programs were kept to an absolute minimum. Press X'd out on that one. And limited programs in which the number of persons who ordinarily would have access would be reasonably small and commensurate with the objective of providing enhanced protection for the information involved. Only individuals with appropriate security clearance and additional SAP permissions were authorized to have. So that's basically need to know with extra steps. So SAP is SCI with extra steps. Fine. Pursuant to executive order, which by the way, I'll just point out that once again, the executive order is law, but it's made up by the executive and the executive can ignore it. So executive orders are laws, but they're executive orders. They're orders from the executive to other elements of the executive. What an executive order is fundamentally, by the way, just to break it down to what it is at its root level, because people don't know what executive orders are, and that's fine. Right? The President of the United States, by the Constitution, is head of the executive branch. The executive shall be held in one President of the United States. It's Section 2, Article 1. Look it up. Right? So he is the executive. Everyone else is fundamentally fractures and pieces of his power. Right? Everyone who works for the executive is fractions of the president by necessity. The president, therefore, can do anything they can do. And as the head of the executive, he is commander to the entire executive. So what an executive order is basically telling a subordinate, here's how I want you to do your job. That's what it is. It's the president of the United States telling a lower person, here's how I want you to do your job. Because the law often allows for a lot of different ways to go about executing a job, right? As we've learned, for example, for Chevron and our discussions of Chevron, how wide is the executive interpretation of statutes? Pretty wide, right? The executive could do this, or literally the exact opposite of that. And often both those things are legal because of how we've interpreted Chevron, but we can let that issue go because I don't want to get into an endless rant. So anyways, how do we choose between this and exactly the opposite of that, or a third option, which is somehow simultaneously the exact opposite of both the previous two? Don't ask questions, but that's somehow this works out, right? So how do we decide? Well, usually this is decided by whoever superior happens to be, right? The low-level bureaucrat reports to his boss, who reports to his boss, who reports to his boss, who reports to his boss, and so forth and so on, right? So what is an executive order? It's just an order all the way from the top. It's an order from the CEO. I'm the CEO. I outrank all your asses. Here's what you're doing now. Okay, so that's what it is. Now, of course, because the president of the United States is a constitutional role, his word is law with respect to this, because as I mentioned, every member of the executive is fractions of his power. They are all his agents. So if you want to interpret this in just standard principal agency theory, that will be fine. The principal is the president. Literally everyone else is the agent. Right? Literally everyone else is the agent. He's the principal, they're all the agent. Principals have the right to dictate to the agent. This is true in private life, this is true in the government, right? If your boss wants to give you an order, the owner of the company wants to give you an order, the owner of the company is the principal, you're the agent, you obviously have to follow his orders because you're an agent of the principal. No muss, no fuss, right? So the only thing different here is because this particular principle is a constitutional role, his word is law. But because it's his word, he can ignore it. So does the EO say what the classification rules are? I'm sure they do. Does the EO say how to go about the classification? I'm sure it does. Does the president care? No. Executive orders don't bind the president because they're orders from him. It'd be it doesn't make any sense. The president can't give an order to himself that he can't just change his mind on. So executive orders don't, yeah, okay, pressing on. Anyways, so there's an executive order that says that information classified at any level could be lawfully accessed only by persons determined by an appropriate governmental official to be eligible for access, who has signed an appropriate non-disclosure agreement, received security clearance, and a need to know. After the presidency, Trump was not authorized to possess or retain classified documents. That's probably true, but whether they're classified is an issue of fact, as we've discussed. Executive order provide a former president could obtain a warrant of need to know if an agency or senior official of an agency that obtained it determined writing that access was consistent with the interest of national security, took appropriate steps to protect the classified information, and it was safeguarded. Trump didn't do this after his presidency. Okay. Yeah. So he didn't go through the right channels. Trump isn't a right channels kind of guy. It's not really how he rolls, but okay. Executive branch departments and agencies classified documents Trump retained after his presidency. As part of official duties as president, Trump receives intelligence briefings from higher level U.S. government officials, including briefings from the Director of Central Intelligence, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, senior White House officials, and a designated briefer. He regularly received a collection of classified intelligence, known as the Presidential Daily Brief. Okay. The mission is to collect, analyze, and deliver foreign intelligence and counterintelligence to American leaders, including president, policymakers, law enforcement, and military, so they can make sound decisions. Query how well the intelligence apparatus is doing that, but that's another question for another time. The intelligence apparatus consists of the United States executive branch and agencies responsible for conduct of foreign relations. After as president, Trump retained documents originated by or implicating the equities of multiple members and other executive branch departments, including the following: the Central Intelligence Agency, Department of Defense, NSA, National Geospatial Intelligence. They don't get enough love. People forget about the National Geospatial people. National Reconnaissance Office, Department of Energy. They do the nuclear weapons. That's the Department of Energy. They deal with the nuclear weapons. Did you know that technically all the nuclear weapons in the United States are owned by the Department of Energy, and they're just being loaned to the Department of Defense? It's true. Anyways, carrying on. United States Department of State and Bureau of Intelligence Research. Okay, yeah. So he received a lot of classified briefings from a lot of people. Film at 11. Public statements on classified information. As candidate for president, Trump made the following public statements. On August 18th, 2016, Trump said, dude, are we literally about to indict Trump because he did things inconsistent with his campaign statements? Is that what we're doing now? You can indict a president of the United States for breaking campaign pledges now? Wow. That's interesting. I didn't know you could indict a president of the United States for breaking a campaign pledge. How do I get a grand jury together? I have some complaints. Anyways, apparently Trump said some things. On August 18th of 2016, Trump said, in my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information. No one will be above the law. On September 6, 2016, Trump said, we also need to fight this battle by collecting intelligence and then protecting our classified secrets. We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of the word confidential or classified. On September the 7th of 2016, Trump said one of the first things we must do is enforce all classification rules and ensure all laws relating to the handling of classified information. On September the 19th, 2016, Trump said we also need the best protection of classified information. On November 3rd, 2016, Trump said service members here in North Carolina have risked their lives to acquire classified intelligence to protect our country. We are literally indicting the president of the United States, at least in part, because he broke campaign pledges. Wow. I didn't know that was an option. I'm learning all new and exciting things right now. Okay. Moving on. As president of the United States on July the 26th, 2018, Trump issued the following statement about classified information. As head of the executive branch and commander in chief, I have a unique constitutional responsibility to protect the nation's classified information, including by controlling access to it. More broadly, the issue of a former executive branch's official security clearance raises larger questions about the practice of former officials maintaining access to our nation's most sensitive secrets long after their time in government has ended. Such access is particularly inappropriate where former officials have transitioned into highly partisan positions and use real or perceived access to sensitive information to validate political attacks. Any access to our nation's secrets should be in furtherance of national, not personal interests. Are we seriously indicting Trump for doing things inconsistent with statements he made as president? Are we indicting Trump for being a hypocrite? Are we indicting a former president for, while they were president, saying one thing and then doing something different than that thing? This raises all kinds of interesting questions that I didn't know I had before this moment when it comes to apparently indicting a president or former president, or I suppose by logical necessity, any executive branch official, because as all executive branch officials are fractions of the president's inherent power, then if this is true of the president, because they all inherit fractions of the president, presumably they inherit this as well. So presumably this would apply at least to, let's say, all high-ranking members of the executive branch. President, vice president, let's say the cabinet. Keep it simple. So we can indict a president, a vice president, or a cabinet official because they said one thing during a address to the nation or during a press conference or during a press release or whatever, and then doing something wildly inconsistent with the thing they just said to the public. That's an option now. I have so many indictments I want to start writing. Where do we start, guys? Where do we start? We're indicting them for their campaign statements, and we're indicting them for their public statements while they're in office. Wow, that's all kinds of magical. That's just great times. I honest to God don't know why this is even here. Like, why is this entire page here? I don't know. Legally, I don't know what this page is doing. It's just blowing my mind. Anyways, pressing on. Trump's retention of classified documents after his presidency. In January 2021, as he's preparing to leave office, Trump and his White House staff, including his body man, packed items, including some boxes. Trump was personally involved in the process. What do you mean by personally involved? You think Trump is packing? It doesn't seem likely, but okay. Trump caused boxes containing hundreds of classified documents to be transported from White House to the Mar-a-Lago Club. Note here, they don't say what date, but they do say as he's preparing to leave the White House. But they don't say what date the transportation actually occurred. Because it occurred before January 20th, didn't it? Yeah. From January through March the 15th, some of Trump's boxes were stored in the Mar-a-Lago Club white and gold bedroom in which events and gatherings took place. Okay. Trump's boxes were for a time stacked on the stage balcony as depicted by the photograph. Well, I suppose one question would be, were they actually stored in that room at the time the events were taking place? Because that is unspecified. They are stored in the room. In that room, events take place. But did the events take place in the room while the stuff was stored in the room? Did all those things occur contemporaneously at the same time? Not clear, at least the way this is written to me. In March 2021, the body man and others moved some of Trump's boxes from the white and gold bedroom to his business center. On April the 5th, an employee of Office of Donald Trump texted another employee to ask whether Trump's boxes could be moved out of the business center to make room for staff to use it as an office. A Trump employee replied, "Whoa, okay. So President of the United States specifically asked Walt for those boxes to be in the business center because there are his papers." Later that day, a Trump employee and a Trump employee exchanged the following messages. "We can definitely make it work if we move his papers into the lake room. There's still a little room in the shower where his other stuff is. Is it only his papers he cares about? There's some other stuff in there that are not papers. Could that go into storage, or does he want everything there on the property? Yes, anything that's not the beautiful mind paper boxes can definitely go to storage. Want to take a look at the space and start moving tomorrow." What is beautiful mind paper? Okay. Pressing on. After text exchanges between the Trump employees in April 2021, some of the boxes were moved, as depicted in this photograph. Okay. In March 2021, Trump directed the storage room on the ground floor to be cleaned out so it could be used to store his boxes. The hallway leading to the storage room could be reached from multiple outside entrances, including one accessible through the Mar-a-Lago Club or pool patio through a doorway that was often kept open. The storage room was near a liquor supply closet, linen room, lock shop, and various other rooms. Oh yeah, I'm sure the Secret Service has no concerns about who might be walking through one of the exterior doors. I'm sure they're in no way guarded, patrolled, watched over, or anything else. Just anyone could walk in through one of those exterior doors at any time, walk right into the room, and get the documents at any time. Secret Service would have no clue because they're not concerned about who might walk in through one of the exterior doors. Okay. On June the 24th, Trump's boxes that were in the lake room were moved to the storage room. After the move, there are more than 80 boxes in the storage room as depicted below. Uh-huh. Not for nothing, by the way, but you don't know what's in the boxes, presumably. Unless, yeah, because, I mean, not for nothing, but just as a pure issue of fact, right? I mean, you don't know for sure what's in the boxes. You know, at some later time, the FBI is going to come in, right? And they're going to do a search. And maybe they found some of these boxes. And maybe when they found some of these boxes, inside the boxes, they found contents in the boxes. Okay. But here's the thing. The contents of boxes can change because you can move things from one box to another. I know. So just because the classified documents were in that box, assuming all this is true, by the way, this is all one massive assumption. But assuming that classified documents, which were in fact classified, were in that box at the time the search occurred, does not mean those same documents were in that box in these photos. Because all you can see is the box. How do you know what's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? Also, unless they're individually labeled, and I can't tell from these photos, how do you know it's the same boxes or not just a similar looking box? Okay. Yeah. Okay. On February the 7th, the body man found several of Trump's boxes fallen and their contents spilled in the room, including documents marked secret rel to US FVEY, which denotes the information document was releasable only to the Five Eyes: Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Okay. The body man texted Trump employee, "I opened the door and found this." He also attached two photographs that took of the spill. The man said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. The president had my phone." On the photographs, the texted employees depicted with visible classified information redacted. Okay. All right, maybe. Maybe. I guess that's something. So now we have pictures of actual documents that we say are classified that we have pictures of in a contemporaneous way that we can date. Although I'll note at least one of the documents appears to be the Washington Post, although it's hard to tell from this photograph. But okay, maybe there's some classified documents in there, or at least documents marked classified. Maybe that's something. Okay. All right. In May 2021, Trump caused some of the boxes to be brought to his summer residence at the Bedminster Club, like the Mar-a-Lago Club. The Bedminster Club is not authorized for storage, possession, review, display, or discussion of classified documents. On July 21st, 2021, when he's no longer president, Trump gave an interview in his office to a writer and publisher in connection with the then forthcoming book. Two members also attended the interview, which was recorded with Trump's knowledge and consent. Before the interview, the media had published a report that at the end of the presidency, a senior military official purportedly feared that Trump might order an attack on country A, and a senior military official advised Trump against doing that. On greeting the writer, publisher, and two staff members, Trump stated, "Look what I found." This was the senior military official's plan of attack. Read it and just show. It's interesting. Later in the interview, Trump engaged in the following exchange. Wait, the military, Trump said, well, with the senior military official, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack country A. Isn't that amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look, this was him. He presented this to me. This is off the record, but he presented this. This was him. This was the Department of Defense and him. The writer. Wow. Trump. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff, pages long. Look. Staffer. Mm-hmm. Trump. Wait a minute. Let's see. Staffer. Laughing. Yeah. Trump. I just found this is amazing. This totally wins my case, you know. Staffer. Mm-hmm. Except like it's highly confidential. Yeah. Secret. This is secret information. Look at this. You attack and Trump says, by the way, isn't that incredible? Staffer. Yeah. I was just thinking because we were talking about it. And you know, he said he wanted to attack country A. And what? Staffer, you did. This was done by the military and given to me. I think we can probably, right? Staffer, I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, I'll have to declassify it. Figure out a way. Yeah. See, as president, I could have declassified it. Staffer, yeah. But I can't now, you see. But this is still secret. Yeah. Now we have a problem. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Well, it apparently shows that Trump, at least from the conversation, is contemplating that he is holding information that he says, at least, although Trump says a lot of shit, to be quite fair, and Trump is not exactly known for his careful words and careful speech. So we do have to factor that into the equation. Trump says a lot of shit, as we all well to know. But if we take it at literal face value, like Trump actually means the literal words he's saying, which is a dangerous presumption, I think, when it comes to Trump, but never mind. If we take it at literal face value, Trump is contemplating that he is knowingly holding documents that are still classified and showing them to someone who is obviously not authorized to see them. So if we take it at literal face value, he is dictating that he's committing a crime as he speaks. So I guess that's a prima facie case. So there's that. Okay. Although, of course, it would obviously depend a little bit more on the details. Like, what does it mean here that we showed him the document? What exactly does that mean? Right? Did we hand it to him and he was able to like flip through it and look at it? Did we just kind of hold it up and be like, here's the document? You know, without actually, what does it mean to show it to him in this context? So there's a little bit of factual ambiguity, but it would at least show his possession of it and his storage of it in not an approved manner. So there's that, I guess. So we take his literal words at literal face value. We have his knowing possession of material that is classified that he's not allowed to possess, and he's not keeping it in a way that's consistent with classification protocol, and possibly showing it to someone who's not authorized to see it, depending on what we mean by this. But okay, fine. Anyways, carrying on. Also, not for nothing, but I don't know the degree to which comparable conversations have occurred by other people that have had possession of classified material when perhaps they're not supposed to. But it would surprise me if this is the first time that a president or former president or a chief of staff or a cabinet member or former cabinet member be like, you don't know what I know. Look at this wonderful thing that I have. You can't see because I'm special and you're not, right? So I don't know the degree to which that's true, but I'm I'm not thinking this is the first time this conversation's happened in some version of it, but you know, that could just be my assumptions of how Washington works. As has been said once by Ben Shapiro, Washington is a lot more like Veep than House of Cards. So, yeah, carrying on anyway. In August or September of 2021, when he was no longer president, Trump met in his office in the club with a representative of his PAC. During the meeting, Trump commented ongoing military operation Country B was not going well. Trump showed the PAC representative a classified map and told the PAC representative he should not be showing the map and not to get too close. Okay. The PAC representative did not have security clearance or any need to know classified information about the military operation. One wonders how up to date the map is just by pure question. Like if this is August or September of 2021. So President Trump has been out of office 8 or 9 months at this point, and he's showing a map that he obtained at some point in his presidency about this. I don't know how up to date this map is in terms of a military operation. I mean, it was 8 months ago. So how damaging to the United States can it possibly be? I would wonder. I mean, I suppose there's scenarios where an 8-month old map might be damaging to the United States, but with an ongoing military operation, I have questions when it comes to that, to be honest. On February the 16th of 2017, 4 years before Trump's disclosure of classified information, Trump said at a press conference, "The first thing I thought of when I heard about this is how does the press get information that's classified? How do they do it? You know why? Because it's illegal. And the press should be ashamed of themselves. But more importantly, the people that gave out the information, the press should be ashamed. Really, really ashamed." Wow. President says something, then does different thing. Film at 11. I am shook, my friends, shook. Trump's production of 15 cardboard boxes to National Archives. Beginning in May of 2021, National Archives, which was responsible for archiving records, repeatedly demanded Trump turn over records he kept during his presidency. On multiple occasions, NAR warned Trump through his representatives he did not comply, would refer the matter to DOJ. Beginning in November 2021 and January 2022, his body man and Trump employee at Trump's direction brought boxes from the storage room to Trump's residence for review. On November 12th of 2021, Trump employee provided Trump a photograph of his boxes in the storage room by taping it to one of the boxes the Trump employee placed in the residence. By tapping it. No, taping it. I was there the first time. Trump employee provided Trump the photograph so Trump could see how many of the boxes were in the storage room. The photograph depicts a wall against which dozens of boxes are stacked. Okay. How many of those boxes contain classified information? Which boxes? How do you know? How do you know it's the same boxes you discovered later? How do you know even if they are the same boxes, it had the same information that you discovered later? Because the information that's inside boxes can move around because things inside boxes can move, and so forth and so on. On November 17th of 2021, the body man texted an employee about the photograph. They provide Trump saying he mentioned about a picture of boxes he wants me to see. Trump employee said, "Call you shortly." November 15th of 2021, Trump employee texted the body man about Trump's review of the contents, said, "Has he mentioned the boxes to you? I delivered some, but I think he may need more. Could you ask if he'd like more in the Pine Hall?" Pine Hall was the entry room in their residence. The body man replied in 3 messages, "Nothing about the boxes yet. He has one he's working on in Pine Hall, knocked out 2 boxes yesterday." Okay. Scott Gimble is not the only argument I have. It's just a argument to point out. And you don't know what's in a box until you look in it. And what's in boxes can change. So, I mean, I'm just pointing out things that are factually true. What's in the box? What's in the box? Just pointing out just pointing out possible issues as we try to do some legal analysis. As always, right? Just trying to point out some possible legal issues, you know, possible deficiencies, questions that need to be asked, holes that are potentially valuable. Just trying to think of any avenue that is relevant to the discussion. Be like, okay, here are some things I can think of off the top of my head. Here are some potential ideas. Take it for whatever value it has. I hope it's meaningful to you. It's impossible for all the evidence to be shown at the exact same time. Well, first of all, I don't know whether or not that's possible or not. And second of all, it's impossible? Really? Are you sure? I don't know. But I'm just pointing out problems. But okay, you do you. On November 25th, 2021, the Trump employee texted the body man about Trump's review of the contents of with the knocking out boxes. We read that part. On November 29th, the Trump employee texted the body man saying, "Next, are you on property so you can help me bring forward boxes?" Body man said, "Yes, of course." On November 29th of 2021, Trump employee texted Trump representative who was in contact with him, "Box answer will be wrenched out of him today, promise." The next day, the Trump employee responded saying, "Hey, just checking on the boxes. We'd love to have a number to them today." Trump employee spoke to Trump and then responded a few hours later in two successive messages. 12 is his number. Okay. On January the 13th of 2022, a glorious day indeed, the body man texted an employee about Trump's tracking of boxes, saying he's tracking the boxes. More to follow today on whether he wants to go through them more today or tomorrow. Trump responding, "Thank you." On January the 15th of 2022, the body man sent Trump four successive text messages saying one thing he asked was for new covers for the boxes for Monday morning. Can we get new covers before giving them to Monday? They have too much writing on them. I marked too much. Yes, I will get with that. New covers for the boxes. Interesting. So the markings on the boxes change? Interesting. Wonder if that might be relevant to a defense in any way. On January the 17th of 2022, a Trump employee, I wonder if because the box's markings change, it might be an arguable defense that it's not the same box as before. This is a different box. It has different markings. How do you know it's the same box? It has different markings. Wow, I wonder if that might be an available defense to somebody in the future. Okay. On January the 17th of 2022, Trump and the body man gathered 15 boxes from the residence, located the boxes in a car, and took a commercial truck for delivery to National Archives. When interviewed by the FBI regarding location and movement of the boxes before production, the body man made false and misleading statements, saying that he was falsely saying he was not aware of Trump boxes being brought to Trump's residence for his review before Trump provided 15 boxes to NARA. Falsely stating he did not know how the boxes he and Trump brought from Trump's residence to the commercial truck for delivery had gone to the residence, and whether he knew whether Trump boxes had been stored before they were in Trump residence, whether it had been a secure or locked location. He falsely responds, I wish I could tell you, I don't know, I honestly just don't know. Well, as to the boxes that Trump actually turned over, maybe he's saying he doesn't know as to those boxes. Because he moved some boxes around, but these boxes, maybe he doesn't know. I don't know. Is that a false statement? I don't know. I guess it depends on exactly what he said, but you know, if the context is these particular statements he turned over, these particular boxes, if the context is, did you move these particular boxes? And he says, I'm not sure, I'm not aware, that might well be a true statement. Because he certainly moved boxes, but did he move those boxes? Does he remember? I don't know. So, depends on the details. When 15 boxes that Trump had moved provided reached NARA in January 22, NARA reviewed the contents and determined 14 of the boxes contained classified information. Specifically, as the FBI determined the boxes contained 197 documents with classified markings, 98 secret, 30 top secret, and remaining confidential. Some of those documents also contained SCI and SAP markings. On February the 9th, NARA referred discovery to the Department of Justice. Not for nothing, but a lot of these problems could have been solved by a high quality paper shredder. Again, not legal advice. Although if you are going to buy a paper shredder, I recommend getting one that does micro cuts, which I believe is P5, if I remember my ratings of shredders correctly and how they're rated in their security levels, because they produce really, really small cuts that are very, very difficult, if not borderline impossible, to recreate. So make sure you get that micro cut shredder, not strip cut, not cross cut, micro cut. Micro cut is the way to go. This not legal advice is brought to you by Uncivil Law. A burn barrel actually is funny. Actually, funny enough, the U.S. government doesn't actually burn documents anymore, to the best of my knowledge. They still have the burn bags, but they don't actually burn the documents. As memory serves correctly, I believe they use either a P6 or P7 rated shredder, depending on the level of security. I don't think the U.S. government actually burns documents anymore, because sometimes, depending on how they're burned, you can actually recover information from a burned document. I mean, it's tricky and obviously depends on the details, but you can sometimes recover information from a burned document. So I don't believe the federal government actually burns paper anymore. They use P6 or P7 security shredders. I may have read about this before because I read about a lot of things. I'm here to help. But I don't believe P6 and P7 shredders are available, at least in easy commercial sale. But you can get a P5 shredder from like Amazon or Office Depot, I think. Anyways, pressing on. I can provide information as to your shredding needs. I can provide information as to, okay, all kinds of fun stuff. I read too many things. All right. Let's see. We referred the documents to DOJ. Then they opened an FBI investigation, and then we opened a grand jury investigation. In Afghanistan, you were burning documents? Fair enough. I stand respectfully corrected. Fair enough, my friend. I stand corrected. Noted. Anyways, I suppose it's good if you need it in a pinch. But fine. Anyways, carrying on. On May the 11th of 2022, the grand jury issued a subpoena to the office of Donald Trump requiring production of all documents with classification markings in possession, control, or custody of Trump, or the office of Trump, which is a concept that exists because, as I mentioned, former presidents get an office paid for by taxpayer funds. It's one of the things they get. Two attorneys representing Trump informed Trump of the subpoena, and he authorized an attorney to accept service. On May the 22nd, the body man entered the storage room and left it approximately 34 minutes later, carrying one of the boxes. On May 23rd, Trump met with the Trump attorney at Mar-a-Lago to discuss response to subpoena. The attorney told Trump they needed to search for documents that would respond to subpoena and provide a certification there had been compliance. Trump, in sum and substance, made the following statements, among others, memorialized by the Trump attorney. I don't want anyone looking through my boxes. I really don't. I don't want you looking through my boxes. What happens if we just don't respond at all or don't play ball with them? That sounds like a reasonable legal question to me. What happens if we don't respond? That sounds like a question you might want to ask an attorney. Wouldn't it be better if we just told them we don't have anything? And then I give you legal advice. Well, isn't it better if there are no documents? That sounds like a legitimate legal inquiry to me. I mean, he's talking to his lawyer, right? It's like, what happens if we say we don't have them? What happens if we don't turn them over? Wouldn't it be better if we didn't have any documents? What is my legal exposure? These sound like perfectly legitimate questions to me. I am curious, incidentally, on bringing these statements in, because these might be memorialized by the Trump attorney in some sort of document, but privilege belongs to the client, not the attorney. So the only way we're bringing these in is through a crime fraud exception. We're saying that this is part of a crime fraud. I don't know about that one, man. I don't know about that one. Like, these seem like potentially legitimate legal questions to me. So I don't know. They're trying to bring this in through crime fraud, piercing privilege. I don't know, man. Although I'm very reluctant to pierce privilege, basically, because I take it very seriously. So I'm concerned about that. They already pierced privilege. I don't know. It's going to be a fight again at the criminal trial, I would imagine. You're going to raise the issue again. I don't know how they've dealt with it in the past. Yeah, I don't know about that. It's going to be fought over again, I'm pretty sure. While meeting with the Trump attorneys, Trump's and some substance told the following story. Attorney, it was great. He did a great job. You know what? He said that it was him. That's because one who deleted all their emails, the 30,000 emails, because basically dealt with her scheduling and her going to the gym and having beauty appointments, and it was great. And so she didn't get any trouble because he said he was the one who deleted them. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I've read it twice, and I'm still not sure what it's supposed to mean. On May the 23rd, Trump also confirmed his understanding with Trump Attorney 1 that Trump Attorney 1 will return to Mar-a-Lago on June 2nd to search for any documents with classification markings in response. Trump Attorney made it clear that Trump Attorney would conduct the search for responsive documents by looking through the boxes that have been transported. Trump indicated he wanted to be at Mar-a-Lago when they reviewed the boxes. Then Trump would change his summer plans. Trump told the attorney that the attorney did not need to be present for review of the boxes. Okay. I mean, fine, I guess. So attorney number one is going to search. We don't need attorney number two here. Oh, okay. After meeting with Trump attorney one and two, Trump delays departure to the Mar-a-Lago to the other club for the summer, so he'd be present when Trump attorney review the documents. Between the meeting with the Trump attorneys to discuss the subpoena, when Trump attorney returned to Mar-a-Lago to review the boxes with the storage room that they removed at Trump's direction, a total of approximately 64 boxes had been brought from Trump's residence as set forth below. Okay. On May 24th, the body man removed 3 boxes. On May the 30th, Trump and the body man spoke by phone for approximately 30 seconds. Then the body man removed 50 boxes. On May the 30th, Trump family member texted the body man, "Good afternoon, Walt. Happy Memorial Day. I saw you put the boxes in the president's room. Just FYI, and I'll tell him as well. Not sure how many he wants to take on Friday on the plane. We'll not have room for them. Plane will be full with luggage." The body man, good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you so much. I think he wanted to pick from them. I don't imagine him wanting to take the boxes. He told me to put them in the room and he was going to talk to you about them. Then he removed some more boxes. Okay. This is the Southern District of Florida, Miami, which is where Mar-a-Lago is. So that makes sense. On June the 1st, Trump spoke with Trump attorney by phone and asked whether Trump attorney was coming to Mar-a-Lago the next day and for exactly what purpose. Trump attorney reminded Trump that the attorney was going to review the boxes that had been transported and remain in storage so a custodian of records could certify they'd been complied. Okay. On that day, the Trump attorney was scheduled to review Trump boxes storage room. Trump spoke with the body man on the phone for approximately 24 seconds. Later that day, the body man, an employee of Mar-a-Lago, moved 30 boxes from the residence to storage room. In sum, between May the 30th, May 23rd, and June 2nd, before Trump's attorney one removed the boxes, the body man, Trump's direction, moved 64 boxes from the storage room, from the residence to storage room. And neither Trump nor the body man informed the attorney of this information. Okay. Okay. I'm thinking. False certification of the FBI. On the afternoon of June the 2nd, as Trump had been informed, the attorney arrived at Mar-a-Lago to review the boxes for documents. Trump met with the attorney before the attorney conducted the review. The body man escorted the attorney to the storage room. What's the problem, though? If the boxes are in the storage room and he's escorting them to the storage room, what's the problem? I'm confused. Maybe I missed something. For about 3 hours, 2.5 hours, Trump attorney reviewed the contents of the boxes. He located 38 documents with classification markings, where the attorney removed and placed in a Redwell folder, which is kind of like an accordion kind of folder that folds and can get bigger and smaller. Trump's attorney contacted the body man and asked him to bring clear duct tape to the storage room, which he did. The Trump attorney used clear duct tape to seal the folder with documents and classification markings inside. This is Florida District. This is Southern District of Florida. This is Miami. That's what this is. And it's right on the top of the document. FLSD, Florida Southern Division, Florida Southern District. Anyways, as Trump attorney finished sealing the red will folder containing the documents, the body man took the attorney to a dining room where he met with Trump. After Trump confirmed he was finished with the storage, Trump asked, "Did you find anything? Is it good, bad?" Seems like a legitimate question to me. Trump and the attorney then discussed what to do with the folder and whether the attorney should bring them to his hotel room and put them in a safe. During the conversation, Trump made a plucking motion as memorialized by the Trump attorney. He made a funny motion though. Well, okay, why don't you take them with you to your hotel room? If there's anything really bad in there, like pluck it out. This motion made, he didn't say that. I'm still having trouble with the fundamental element of conspiracy, I suppose, with Trump attorney one. Because unless Trump attorney one says yes, there's no conspiracy. There has to be an agreement for a conspiracy. This would be solicitation, maybe, but it's his attorney, so even that's questionable. And it also could just be joking around because Trump says a whole lot of shit. So I don't know about any of that. That evening, Friday, the attorney contacted the Department of Justice and requested the FBI agent meet him in the club the next day so they could turn over the documents. By the way, just while I have the 769 of you here, which is very nice of you to be here, and I thank each one of you for being here while we go through these documents in some detail, trying to tease out what we can about this and look for possible defenses and possible lines of further information that we might want to know. I just want to say that I hope I'm bringing you good information. And if I am bringing good information, I would very much appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. I really would like to make this channel grow as much as possible. This is my full-time job now, and I want to bring you the very best content I can. And if I'm bringing to you good analysis and trying to show you possible questions, possible issues, possible flaws, possible avenues of attack, if I'm bringing any information to you and value to you, I'd really appreciate your subscription. And thank you to every one of you who are here, because without you, this would be kind of pointless. So I really do appreciate every one of you who are here. Thank you. Let's see, where were we? Okay. All right. That evening, the attorney contacted DOJ and requested an FBI agent meet him the next day so he could turn over the documents. Also that day, the attorney contacted another Trump attorney, and after she wanted to come to Mar-a-Lago the next morning to ask the custodian and sign the certification. Trump number attorney 3 agreed. Okay. All right. The next day, at Trump attorney 1 request, Trump attorney 3 signed the certification and took it to Mar-a-Lago to provide DOJ. In that certification, Trump attorney 3, who had provided no search, had not reviewed the subpoena, and not reviewed the contents of the folder, stated, among other things, that based on the information that had been provided to her, a diligent search was conducted that removed to the box. The search was conducted after receipt and all responsive information. Well, this statement was false. Actually, strictly speaking, that statement is true because it's the information that was provided to her. And that seems to be what was provided to her. So that statement is true. Statement was false because, among other things, Trump had directed to move the boxes before the review, so many boxes were not searched. But you said they were moved to the storage room, unless I misunderstood. Is that what you said? Well, you said Trump attorney 1 reviewed the contents of the box in the storage room. And then you said, yeah, the boxes were moved from the storage room to the residence and brought to the storage room only 30 boxes. I see. So some of the boxes were still in the residence. Okay, so I read that wrong. So I misunderstood because it's like, well, you brought them to the storage room. So apparently there were 34 boxes in the residence that they didn't review. Okay. So, all right, fine. But this is still true from her point of view because that was the information that she's provided. So that isn't false. It's just that she was given bad information, but okay. Anyways, carrying on. The statements were false because Trump had directed the body man to move boxes for review, so many boxes could not be searched and many documents could not be found. In fact, were not found. Shortly after Trump's Attorney 3 executed false certification, Trump 1 and Trump 3 met at Mar-a-Lago with personnel from Department of Justice and FBI. Hmm. Trump Attorney 1 and 3 turned over the folder containing documents as well as the certification. Trump, who's delayed his departure to Mar-a-Lago, joined Attorney 1 and 3 for some of the meeting. Trump claimed to the DOJ that he was an open book. Earlier the same day, the body man and others loaded several of the boxes along with other items on an aircraft that flew to Trump for a family that summer. Hmm. I don't know. I mean, this all requires Trump to have some pretty like a lot of his intent matters in this discussion, right? It matters a lot about his intent, like in moving boxes around. Like, was an intent to obfuscate or intent to obstruct? Did he move the documents because he was tending to obstruct, or what was going around? It's a little ambiguous as to like what Trump was trying to do or not trying to do. Because Trump doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would necessarily have like the sharpest memory with respect to like what's in every particular box and moving the boxes with this sort of Machiavellian intent. Trump doesn't seem like he's that detail focused in that respect. So his mental state is not necessarily obvious from moving these boxes around. So I have questions as it relates to that. Hmm. I also have questions, of course, as it relates to other people and their management of other documents and classified material, because at least some of this stuff seems at least somewhat comparable to other past presidents and other cabinet secretaries and other people who were in a position with documents. We're finding documents everywhere. We find them in the garage with the T-Bird in Biden's house. We find them, in the public policy center of Biden and DC. Pence had some documents in his house. At this point, it's easier to draw up a list of who doesn't have classified documents in their house. I might have classified documents in my house. Who the hell knows at this point because of how many documents get around? I don't know. I'm going to make some documents with classified markings just so I can say I have some documents with classified markings. I'm going to print out this document. I'm going to put classified markings on it so that I'll say, yes, I have possession of documents with classified markings. Anyways, carrying on. Anyways, uh, in July 2022, the FBI and the grand jury obtained surveillance video from Mar-a-Lago showing the movement of the boxes. In August the 8th, they have conducted a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. Search warrant asked for the FBI search and seize. During the execution, they found documents. Which were they in those boxes that Trump moved? Who knows? Are those the same boxes? Are they different boxes? Are the boxes, even though the same, do they have the same contents they did before? Did the contents of the boxes change? Did the boxes change? We also have information from the body man that apparently the markings on the boxes caused them to change the boxes because there were too many markings on them. So things are going in and out of boxes. So, were those documents in those boxes the whole time? Who knows? Yeah. Something like 2 million people have top secret. I very much doubt that. 2 million people can't possibly have top secret. 2 million people is basically the total amount of employees in the federal government. Not every person in the federal government has top secret clearance. There's not 2 million people with top secret. I doubt that very much. No, I don't think that's very likely. Um, all right. So, based on all these facts, willful retention of national defense information, having unauthorized access, possession, control, willfully retain documents, failed to deliver them to the United States by having these varying documents. Document 1, document dated May 3rd concerning White House intelligence briefing related to various foreign countries. I wonder if that's the presidential daily briefing. SI. Well, no foreign, top secret, SI, special handling. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, document 2, document related dated May 9th concerning White House intelligence briefing. I wonder if we'll get to get these documents. That'd be cool. Probably not, but that'd be cool. January 20th of 2021, undated document. Wait a second. Oh, wait a second. Oh, yeah. Okay. So you have a document from May 19th, May 9th, document from May 3rd, and an undated document concerning military capabilities of a foreign country in the United States with handwritten annotations in black marker. Okay. Well, all right. Document dated May 6, 2019, concerning White House intelligence briefing relating to foreign countries, including military activities and planning of foreign countries. January document dated June 2020 concerning nuclear capabilities of a foreign country. They redacted the markings? Did they really redact the markings on the document? They redacted the markings? Top secret, redacted? Oricon, no foreign? What's Oricon? I'm not sure I know that one. Hold on. Oricon. What is that? Originator controlled. Oh, okay. Originator controlled. Just means that the classification is designated by the person who classified it. But they actually classified the markings. The markings themselves are too secret for us to know. What does that doesn't even make sense? Top secret special handling document dated June 4th concerning White House intelligence briefing related to foreign countries. Document related October 21st concerning communication with leader of a foreign country. Document dated October 4th, 2019 concerning military capabilities of foreign country. Undated document concerning military attacks by a foreign country. Document dated January. What's TK/TK? TK classification marking. TK. Well, SCI TK. What is? Hold on. TK. What is that? SSCI TK. Following information will be classified secret and contain SCI information. Well, TS means top secret. So apparently S or SI or TK means it's secret and contains SCI information. That seems like a weird marking. TK covers space-based imagery intelligence, signal intelligence, and measurement and signal intelligence. Oh, tally keyhole. Ah, tally keyhole. Oh, okay. It's a keyhole satellite. Ah, talent keyhole. Oh, TK means it's from a keyhole satellite. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that. All right, cool. All right, great. Fantastic. Imagery intelligence, signal intelligence, measurement, and signal intelligence relating analytical techniques. The original talent compartmentalization was created in the 50s for U2. It's broadened to cover all national aerial reconnaissance, including SR-71. A keyhole was created for satellite intelligence. Right, keyhole satellites. Talent keyhole is now a top-level control system merged with Klondike and no longer a distinct compartmentalization. Okay, cool, great, understand it. Fantastic, moving on. Okay, document 11, no markings, undated document concerning military contingency planning, but it has no markings? That's okay. How are we prosecuting him for the no markings document? I'm confused. Uh, pages of undated documents concerning projected regional military capability of a foreign country in the United States. Undated documents concerning military capabilities of a foreign country in the United States. Document dated January 2020 concerning military operations of foreign countries and potential effects of the United States. I like looking things up, by the way. I looking things up. That's how I like get all this wonderful knowledge and information. Like, so I can talk just off the cuff about shredders, for example. I like looking things up. So it's like, oh, I don't know what that marking is. What does that mean? I was like, oh, okay. It's nice to look things up. Then you know things. Then you put it in your memory hole and you can pull it out later. It's the ultimate in cheating, remembering things. Anyways, carrying on. Document dated February 2020 concerning policies in a foreign country. Document dated December 19th concerning foreign country supported terrorist attacks against the United States. Document 17, document dated again with the redacted markings. We're literally redacting classified markings. I was under the apparently mistaken, I guess it must be a code word. That must be what it must be. That must be what it is. It must be a code word. So they actually put the code word in the markings. That's why it's redacted. I figured it out. It's a code word. And they put it in the markings. Okay. All right. I'm on board with you. I'm picking up what you're laying down for code word clearance. Got it. And we're not even going to tell you the code word because we're so secretive over here. Ooh, fun and exciting. The code word itself is secret. Very fun. All right, great. Moving on. Document dated January 2020 concerning military culpabilities of foreign country. Either that or they put the name of the country in the title, which would be hilarious. Secret non-foreign. Document dated March 2020 concerning military operations against United States forces and others. Yeah, either a code word or a country identifier. One of the two. Yeah. Secret formally restricted. Does that mean it upped its classification? Undated document concerning nuclear weapons of the United States. I'm not sure how I should feel about that. There's an undated document that concerns nuclear weapons of the United States marked secret. It was previously only apparently formally restricted. Wow. Apparently information concerning nuclear weapons isn't as important as I thought. Okay. Well, we're one step from declassified over here, I guess, with the nuclear weapons of the United States. Okie dokie. I mean, there's a lot of information out there in the public domain if you just pay attention. Like, it's not exactly like the location of the nuclear silos is secret because, they show up on satellites. It's not exactly secret how many nuclear submarines we have and how many missiles they carry, and also how many warheads the missiles carry, because those are also governed by START Treaty, for example, or the payloads of those missiles, or the relative operational capability of those missiles. If you pay attention, you can learn a lot of things. Yeah. Carrying on. Anyone want to fire a Trident? D5 Trident just to see if it works? What's the worst that could happen? Well, 95% of all living matter within a 7-mile radius would die instantly in a torrent of fire. Okay, here, pressing on. Document 20, top secret redacted. Undated document concerning timeline and details of attacks of a foreign country. January 20th, secret, undated documents concerning military capabilities of a foreign country. 22, top secret, RSEN. That's a new one for me. What is RSEN? We get to learn classification markings. Hold on. RSEN classification. What is that? Let's see. Risk sensitive. Ooh, exciting. Risk sensitive. That's exciting. Whatever the hell that means. Apparently used in relation to imagery products. Ooh, okay. We have too many classification markings. I can't keep up with all this. RSEN. National Geospatial Agency markings. Risk sensitive. Okay, so apparently geospatial over here, really believing they're one of the special children, has their own special classification markings. That's nice to know. The satellite people would like to have their own special markings. That's cool. They can have their own special markings. That's fine. Document dated August 19th concerning regional military activity. Document 23, document dated August the 30th concerning White House intelligence briefing relating to foreign countries with handwritten annotations. Document 24, undated document concerning military activity of foreign country. Document 25, document dated October 24th concerning military activity of foreign countries in the United States. This is going to be one hell of an interesting trial. Because, like, how is the jury going to adjudicate this? Are we going to tell the jury about it? That's going to be, are we going to find ourselves a jury that we can expose classified information to? This is going to be interesting as shit. Because what is the document, right? I mean, presumably you have to disclose it to the defense, right? Because it's part of your evidence. So the defense is going to, like, give me the document. No, it's classified. This is going to be an interesting fight. This is going to be interesting. We'll never get to trial. Oh, Lord. It's been a while since we've done one of these things. I mean, classically, they had to give the information to the jury, which is one of the reasons that they didn't bring a lot of these cases in the first place. Because you had to give the information to the jury and expose the secret. So, okay, this will be fun. The fact that we're doing this in the Southern District of Florida is interesting. It'll be interesting to see if anyone tries to transfer this somewhere else. I don't know how that would work on venue issues. I don't know if the court is handling that. Like the Northern District of Virginia, Alexandria, deals with some classified stuff because of their proximity to DC, and also because that's where the Pentagon is. The Pentagon may have a Washington DC address, but don't fool you, it's in Virginia. So the Northern District of Virginia might be able to handle this because they deal with some classified stuff. The court in DC might be able to deal with this. Maybe we can do it at the Foreign Surveillance Intelligence Court. And we do a criminal trial there. That'd be fun. The Lord of mercy. It's going to be an interesting trial. The discovery is going to be interesting. Every part of this is going to be interesting. I'm not beyond wanting the secrets. Give me secrets. I like secrets. Give me secrets. That's fine. I can be trusted. I'm a good guy. All right. Top secret document dated November 19th concerning military activity of foreign country. 28th. Top secret document dating October 18th concerning White House intelligence briefing relating to foreign countries. 29. Top secret document relating to October the 18th concerning mobile capabilities. The 30th document dated October 15th. 31 document dated February 27th. Okay. Obstruction of justice, so the conspiracy is apparently between Donald Trump and the body man. Fine. Withholding documents. 18 USC 1512. Let me look that up real fast. 18 USC 1512. What is that? Tampering with a witness or tampering with an informant. B2? B2A? What is B2A? Whoever knowingly uses intimidation, threatens, or corruptly persuades another person to cause or induce any person to evade legal process. So we corrupted. So the count, I don't like the way it's written. It's not that we withheld the document. That's not the problem. The problem is that we coerced another person to withhold the document. So I don't like the way this count is written. That's just a personal thing. I don't think that's necessarily a legal deficiency, but I don't like the way the count is written because it's misleading. Corruptly concealing a document, 1512C1. That's the same thing. Influencing or delaying a person. I don't like the way that's written. The problem is that we corruptly concealed. The problem is that we influence someone else to corruptly conceal. That's the problem, which we get right in the paragraph, but I don't like the header. The header's misleading. 35, same thing. 1519. Oh, 1519, that's a new section. I do like, them to get it right. 1519, destruction, altercation of records in federal investigations. Whoever knowingly alters, destroys, mutilates, conceals, covers up, falsifies, or makes a false entry with intent to impede or influence an obstruction. Covers up. I don't think this is what that means. I think they literally mean like taking a black marker and marking over things with intent to impede, obstruction, or influence an investigation. 20 years. The defendants did knowingly conceal, cover up, falsify, mark entries into records and tangible objects with the intent to deceive. They hid, concealed, and covered up. Continued prosecution. I don't think that's what that statute means. I don't think that's what that statute means. They conceal. I mean, I can put it on title, put it on screen so you can see what I'm looking at. So this is so you can tell from the indictment, right? You can tell from the indictment because they tell you the section number right at the top. 18 USC 1519, comma 2. So they give you the relevant section. So then we can all look it up together, right? 1518 or 1519. Right? 1519. 1519. Here's the statute. Whoever knowingly alters, destroys, mutilates, conceals, covers up, falsifies, or makes any false entry into a record, document, or tangible object with intent to impede, obstruct, or influence proper administration of any matter within jurisdiction of the United States may be imprisoned or fined. Now, there's a wonderful little legal principle, which is when you're interpreting an item within a list of items. Okay, when you're interpreting an item within a list of items, you interpret the item in the context of the items. I forget the Latin expression, but it's one of the well-known ideas of statutory instruction. Like, words are interpreted by the company they keep. So what does the term cover up mean? What does that mean? Well, the term cover up is properly interpreted by understanding the company it keeps. So what does cover up mean? Well, it means the same genre of things that alter, destroys, mutilates, conceals, falsifies, or makes false entry. So what is this contemplating? This is contemplating collectively someone marking up a document, destroying a document, altering a document, blacking out a document to conceal the information in the document. That is what that's contemplating. Okay? That's what that's contemplating. Now, if you go back to the charge, right? They say that the defendants knowingly concealed, cover up, falsify, make a false entry in the documents with intent to impede, blah, 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 by doing this. Trump and the guy hid, concealed, and covered up the continued possession and create a false certification. No. That is not what that means. So count 35 is legally bogus. I do not concur. Dismiss count 35. Legally invalid. This is why we look things up. Scheme to conceal. 1001A1. 1001 is just lying. Does it have sub provisions? 1001 statements. Okay, where are we doing? 1001A1. Except as otherwise provided, anyone who knowingly will falsifies, conceals, or cover up by scheme. Yeah, so basically lying. In a manner willfully concealed to the grand jury, they hid and concealed from the grand jury continued possession. I'm not sure that's what that means either. Falsify, again, when you're interpreting words, you interpret it. What does it mean to conceal something? right? What does it mean to conceal something? Falsify, conceal, cover up, right? Again, we're contemplating false things. And here we're basically accusing them of hiding things, which I don't think quite falls within the flow, right? Because you can also interpret the word conceal in light of the other things, right? So you can only interpret within the context of A1. But if we need further resolving of our ambiguity, let's go to A2 and A3. Making any material a false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement. Making any use of false writing or document knowing the same to contain materially false or fictitious statement. So maybe we're going to try to get in for the during the certification statement is the basis of this, but they didn't say that. They didn't say by the certification statement. They just said during the federal grand jury, they hid and concealed the continued possession. How? How they do that? I don't think count 36 is legally sufficient. I don't like the way that's written either. Count 35 is not looking good. Count 36 is not looking good. What else you got for me, FBI or DOJ, which is the same thing, I guess. DOJ and FBI belong to FBI belongs to DOJ. So, false statement in a matter within the grand jury. Trump caused the following false statements and represented to be made by the sworn certification. Okay, so if count 37 is the certification, what's count 36? Like, it can't be the certification because that's count 37 because they told me. So what's count 36? I now don't even know what count 36 is. What's it referring to? I don't know. Hid? You think it's the hide? They hid the information? I don't think that's enough. I don't think it's enough within the context of the statute. It's only illegal to knowingly or willfully falsify, conceal, cover up, make false representation, fictitious, fraudulent statement, make or use a false writing or document. It's not illegal to hide, and certainly not. Yeah, I don't think hiding works. I'm not sure about that one. So you think the mere fact of them hiding the documents? I'm not even sure, strictly speaking, they hid them from the grand jury in the context. So first of all, I'm not sure they did that. Second of all, even if they did, I'm not sure it's a violation. So, and within the context of this particular statute, the way I'm reading it, but maybe I'm reading real fast. So I have doubts. I have some doubts here. 37, apparently the statement we made. The statement itself wasn't false, but it was misleading. Makes or uses any false document knowing the same to contain materially false, fraudulent information. So literally true statements do not violate the statute. It only is if it's false, fictitious, or fraudulent. False writings. So I'm not sure that this works because I'm not sure the certification itself is false because it was to the best of her knowledge. So I think the certification might be literally true on its face. And if it is literally true on its face, it's not a basis to indict. So I'm not sure that works. Count 38, false statements. The body man participated in a voluntary interview with the FBI. Never do that, by the way. Enforce your right to remain silent, especially with the feds. They are not your friend. It will not go well. Don't talk to the police. During the interview, the FBI explained that it was investigating how classified material had been kept, asked some questions about location and movement. He's represented by counsel, and FBI advised him the interview was voluntary and he could leave. Invoke your right to remain silent for the love of God is my advice. Apparently, his attorney didn't give that advice. The FBI also advised him it was a criminal offense to lie. The interview was recorded. They asked him, are you aware of any boxes being brought to his home, to his suite? No. All right, so the best of your knowledge, you're saying the boxes you brought onto your truck, first time you're late on them, just a day, was need to correct to take them. And knowing that we try to track the life of these boxes, where they could have been kept and stored. Mm-hmm. Do you have any information that would help us understand, like where they're kept, how secured, where they're locked? I wish I could. I don't know. Yeah, that might be a false statement. Don't talk to the feds. Please don't talk to the feds. Yeah, every word you say will be misperceived and twisted. Also to the FBI friends who are currently watching this broadcast. Hi, FBI friends. I know you're doing your job, but I'm still going to tell people not to talk to you because it's not in their interest, because bad things will happen. If the police show up your door and say, we'd like to ask you some questions, say, I want to remain silent, please go away. Just do that. That'd be great. Please do that. That'd be great. Don't talk to the FBI or any police officer, like ever. Unless you like jail. Maybe you like jail. In which case, talk to the FBI all you want. That'd be great. And so what? You saw only 15, 17 boxes the day of the movie, and they just showed that they were in Pine Hall. Just asked me, can we move some boxes? Like, okay. So you have no idea how they got there before? No. And these statements were false. Well, they might be. All right. And we have a certification. You think the case will take 21 days for the parties to try? That's ambitious. And then we go through the penalty sheet. Willful retention count as to count 1 through 35. Each is 10 years. Max term of imprisonment, no minimum term. As to count 32, obstruction, 20 years, no minimum term. As to count 33, 20 years, no minimum term. As to count 34, 20 years, no minimum term. As to count 35, 20 years, no minimum term. As to count 36, 5 years, no minimum term. As to count 37, 5 years, no minimum term. As to count 32, 20 years, no minimum term. As to count 33, 20 years, no minimum term. As to count 34, 20 years, no minimum term. As to count 35, 20 years, no minimum term. As to count 36, 5 years, no minimum term. As to count 37, 38, 5 years, no minimum term. Great. Okay. So let's try to compile my overall thoughts into a nice one big thing. First of all, don't talk to the police. Invoke your right to remain silent. This is my wish from me to you. Okay? This is my wish from me to you. If the FBI comes to your door or calls you on the phone, or if the police call you on the phone or come to your home and be like, can you answer some questions? The correct answer is no. I will not answer your questions. I invoke my right to remain silent. And then just keep repeating that over and over again. I want a lawyer. I want to remain silent. And really just remain silent, period. That's my legal advice. Just remain silent. Remaining silent is your friend. If you say things, even at a minimum, everything you say will pin you down to a particular version of truth. So even if every word you say is true, it pins you down to those statements because now you can't change them, right? So even telling the truth is harmful because it inhibits options in the future. Because now those statements are made and they are locking you into a particular story. When other versions of also true things might be helpful as to a different story. So even truthful words harm you and harm your defense because they lock you in to a particular version of things. And I can't fix that problem as your defense lawyer because now we are locked into something. So first of all, you're going to say something false. I know you are because there's just no chance. Of course you're going to say something false. There's just no way. But even if somehow if you don't, you lock yourself into reality. So just don't talk to the police. This is good advice. Keep your mouth silent. I want to remain silent. Just say that. It's not complicated. People try to overcomplicate it, right? People try to overcomplicate it. They say all kinds of other things. Like maybe I should get an attorney. Do you think it's a good idea I should get an attorney? Perhaps I would like an attorney. Attorneys are nice. Maybe I should talk to one. Talking to an attorney seems like a good idea. Perhaps I should do that before talking to you. And other versions and variants of this. Please don't overcomplicate it. This is one time in your life where simple is your friend. I want to remain silent. Just say that. I want to talk to an attorney. Not maybe it's a good idea, maybe I should. I was contemplating talking to an attorney. Attorneys might be nice. Do you like attorneys? I like attorneys. Please, none of those things. Just I want to remain silent would be great. Okay, great. Now moving past that issue of whether or not it's a good idea to talk to the police, it's not. As to the underlying issues, what I think we can say for some, let's assume we will. Here's what I think is true. Here's what I think is true. I think it's probably true that President Trump had documents in Mar-a-Lago that were not in fact declassified, while taking note that the President of the United States has unilateral authority to declassify. I don't think that that actually happened. That's what I think is true. Now, as to what the FBI found the documents that are marked. So they're pretty well on their way to making their case that he had possession of documents that were in fact classified. Now, assuming that like no document exists to the contrary, which I'm assuming it doesn't exist, or we probably wouldn't be here. Like Trump didn't write a memo, so I'm assuming there's no memo. Then, if he wants to argue they're declassified, then either one of two things has to happen. Either he has to show that someone else was in a room when he's like, all these documents are all declassified. That'd be great. Or he has to say the act of moving them is an act of declassifying in and of themselves, which I don't think legally works, by the way, because the president of the United States moves documents around all the time. Just because he moves them from one place to another doesn't magically make them declassified. That's be insane. All right, the president of the United States flies all over the world. He probably takes classified documents with him in his briefcase as he's walking around in his day-to-day life, right? Just because he goes visit Japan or something and he's in a hotel room with a classified document doesn't magically make the document declassified. So I don't think magically moving them in and of itself, although maybe it's different because he was moving permanently. I don't know, but I wouldn't want to depend on it. I wouldn't want to depend on the magically moving them makes them declassified argument. I don't think that really works. So he can try that, but I don't think it goes anywhere. He can try if someone else can testify that he said these are all declassified while he's present. Great. Otherwise, he has to probably take the stand in order to say, "Oh yeah, I declassified them through magic somehow." And Donald Trump on the stand seems like the worst idea I could ever have in my life. Like of all the clients I don't want to put on the stand, Donald Trump has got to be number one. Like I'm like, there's no way this ends well. As hypothetical defense lawyer for Donald Trump, putting Donald Trump on the stand has got to be the single worst idea I've ever contemplated in the history of contemplation. From a legal angle, lawyers don't like risk and uncertainty, and Donald Trump on the stand is nothing but question marks. And I'm like, that's okay. I'm good. 50 gift memberships. Thank you very much by Let's Go Brandon for the 50 gift memberships. That's very, very thoughtful and stuff. So yeah. So I think the it's at least some of these charges. I think that they can make their prima facie case. And I don't know what the best defenses that are available are. I've tried to highlight some of those issues as best as I could think of, but I don't know that it really goes anywhere. I mean, just because even if we assume that he showed the classified information from far away, I don't know that that's enough to save him. So I think Donald Trump is in some trouble. The political angles to it are probably the best line of immediate attack. Also, we can probably delay this trial for some time in preliminaries and stuff like that. So we can probably keep this trial stalled for quite a long time. So I suppose Donald Trump's best hope is that either he or someone friendly to him takes over the White House and pardons his ass, because that would solve that problem. And at least as far as I'm concerned, the president does have the ability to pardon himself, which incidentally is true of Biden as well, by the way. So I'm not like giving Trump some special right. As far as I'm concerned, President Biden has the right to pardon himself and Hunter and anyone else when he wants to, because that's how I interpret the Constitution. I think the power to pardon is absolute and unreviewable. That's what I think. So, yeah. Let me read through the super chats that came through today, at least the ones that I can see. Judo Kuro has been a member for 6 months. Thank you very much for being a member 6 months. Thank you to everyone who hits that beautiful, beautiful join button. Sue Candle gave 10 euros, saying, so glad to catch your opinion on this live. Mandalore Wise gave $10 to say, so just saw a yesterday's clip of a Law Nerds channel. F the camera operator in particular. They're talking about the judge in the Parkland trial because the camera operator has now multiple times shown faces of the jury. Anyways, F the camera operator in particular. Hopefully, the judge doesn't now remedy the no cameras in the court for the rest of the trial. Yeah, I'd like to continue covering it. I'm not sure if that's going to continue to be possible. I'm surprised the judge has not taken the camera operator out by the woodshed at this point, to be quite honest. We saw two jurors' faces today. That was really great. Quick said in Afghanistan they were burning documents. Fair enough. Chio gave CLP 1,100, whatever that turns out to be in American. Let me Google that real fast. LP. Well, P is P peso? P is peso. What's CL? I think you might get me on that one. Chilean. CL is Chile. Oh, that makes sense. So you gave me about a buck 34, buck 36. Well, thank you for the $1.36. I appreciate everyone who donates to this channel, no matter where you are or no matter what currency you do. And I hope that Chile is treating you very, very well. I've never been there before. Would like to visit. I've never been to South America before. I'd like to go to South America. I'd like to visit. Any South American honeys in the chat? Call at me. Ill Inc. gave 99 cents to become an uncivilian. Thank you. Greg Palmer gave 4.99. Said Trump could never obtain an impartial jury in DC or Northern Virginia. I expect to see the government to move the trial there. Yeah, I would think so. For very practical reasons. His odds of finding a favorable jury are more favorable in Florida, I would imagine. We'll see. Sandra Ramirez gifted 5 gift memberships. Sue Candle gifted 10 memberships. Bush McFadden has been a member for 3 months. Thank you very much. Let's Go Brandon gave $5 saying I was behind because I was listening to another attorney run through this, and you guys are both hammering some of the obvious flaws. This is a joke. Yeah, it's nice when we both find the same problems, and hopefully listening to different attorneys, they find different problems because I can't see everything, especially in an on-the-cuff, real live, real-time review. I've been thinking about it literally as long as I've been talking to you. So these are some of the problems I found. Other people might spot other problems, but it's nice when we find the same things. It makes you feel confident and stuff. Let's Go Brandon then gave 50 gift memberships, which is very, very nice of Let's Go Brandon, who has in the past also been a very strong supporter of the channel. And we very much appreciate everyone who's been such a strong supporter of the channel with the renewed gift memberships. Alan Parker, for example, recently has been very, very good with gift memberships and very strong supporters of the channel. We appreciate that. And we appreciate everyone who supports at any level. It's one of the reasons, incidentally, I made memberships literally 99 cents. It's literally the least YouTube will let me charge you. It's one of the reasons I made the memberships 99 cents because I wanted everyone to be able to become a member. And I know that for some people, money is tight. And I know some people really watch the pennies, and I appreciate that. It's one of the reasons that I made it as cheap as possible so that for literally $1 a month, you can support the channel. And if you want to, you can support it at levels obviously higher than that. I do make other levels available, but they don't actually confer any additional benefit. They're just in case you want to. But it's literally just $1 a month to become a member because I want it to be accessible to everybody, including people who have to count pennies. And I hope that that's literally the least YouTube will let me charge you. So I did as much as I was able to. So I appreciate all of you. And for those of you who can't support financially, you can also support the channel by tweeting about the channel, retweeting the channel, sharing on your social media of choice, sharing on Discords, and otherwise helping to bring attention to the channel. So if you can't support financially, supporting with a couple moments of your time by helping to spread the channel is always appreciated as well. That can be even more valuable than cash sometimes. I've actually observed that because in the past I've tried to buy like Twitter ads or YouTube ads, and I found them to be completely ineffective compared to organic reach. So every one of you who helps really does really help. Sue Candle gives 10 euros to say, what if the documents he has declassified puts intelligence operatives at risk? Well, if they are in fact declassified, it doesn't matter because the president of the United States has absolute authority to declassify. So the fact that it would cause harm to the United States, oh, well, that's what is in the nature of absolute authority. He can't be wrong, right? If he can't be wrong. So what if it causes problems? Well, what if it does? It doesn't matter It's the nature of absolute authority. So if they're declassified, they're declassified. The fact that it exposes our spies, exposes their cover, brings them grave and harm, exposes our intelligence methods, shares with the Russians our nuclear codes. None of that matters because it's absolute. Psychotic Teddy 97 is a uncivilian. Thank you for becoming an uncivilian. Do I think the indictment has legs? Yes, at least on the prima facie case, I do. There are some problems, there are some holes, there are areas of attack, but yes, I think it does. The attacks are more, and the attacks against it. There are some legal attacks. We've discussed some of those legal attacks, but I think the government ultimately has its prima facie case. I can stall this, I can delay this, but I don't know ultimately as a defense attorney I can win this. I can maybe get some of these counts dismissed. We've discussed some of the cases, some of the counts can get dismissed. Um, but I don't know ultimately I can win this. The best attacks against this are more political than legal. To point out unequal treatment in how the FBI has done this, because I think it is fair to say that many politicians have classified documents that are kept at least as insecure, unsecured, or arguably even more unsecured than this. Because while former presidents have lifetime security clearance, former cabinet members do not. And there are members of cabinet, well, except of course in the case of Hillary Clinton, because she's married to Bill Clinton, but never mind. So except for that, you know, they don't get lifetime Secret Service. So there have been, excuse me, there have been members of the cabinet who have arguably had information kept in more unsecure environments than this. So the unequal treatment as it relates to former presidents and particularly former cabinet officials is notable. So I think the attacks are more political than legal. But that's what I think about that. How can they charge Trump but not charge Joe or Hillary? Well, I mean, they can't charge Joe because he's president of the United States, and they can't indict the sitting president. I think is true, regardless of when the crimes occurred. I don't think because the federal government is because he is the executive, so they can't indict the sitting president. There's memos written on this. So yeah, I don't think they can indict the sitting president. They could impeach, but Congress will never do it. As to Hillary Clinton, with the email issue, I think that Comey's argument makes some sense. As to other officials with other documents, more questionable. So, yeah, and also as to Trump himself, like he had access to the information. So, to the extent he knows it in his own mind, him being in further possession of the documents does nothing because he already knows the information. So, but the documents themselves are regardless of what it is in a person's mind. The documents are the property of the United States. So, I mean, the government wins that point, right? Regardless of what Trump knows or doesn't know, even if he knows all the information, the documents themselves, assuming that they haven't been declassified, which I don't think they are, and I don't think Trump could prove it anyway. They are the property of the United States. They're not the president's property. The president, Donald Trump, had the right to the documents while he was serving in the office of the president. There is a difference between the office of the president and the president of the United States for exactly this reason, right? They are properly within the office of the president of the United States. He is not the office of the president of the United States, not anymore, at least. So, if he becomes president again, he can moot all this issue by pardoning himself, which I would do rapidly. Or if he gets DeSantis to do it, that'd be nice. Or whoever becomes president next. If we can get a Republican president of any variety to pardon him, that would be very helpful. Although, of course, the left will be pissed off, but who cares? Ford pardoned Nixon, so whatever. If it's political, not legal, how does it have legs? Well, there is legal elements to it. It's just that the best offenses are political. The best offenses are political, not legal. Unequal treatment, unfair prosecution, selective prosecution. The best offenses are political, not legal. this is going to lead to civil war? I doubt that very much, but maybe I'm more optimistic about such things. Ford was, in fact, his VP. Yes, yes, but I'm just pointing out that Ford did pardon Nixon, so we do have some precedent for this. And of course, with a pardon, you don't even need to be charged with anything. Nixon was never charged. Of course, President Trump has just been charged, but you don't need to be charged. You don't need to be convicted. And that's one of the nice things about pardon. All that has to have happened is the crime has to occur, and you have to identify the crime with some particularity. Although you can do it globally, because I think Ford's pardon, if memory serves, I believe Ford's pardon was global. I could look it up, but I believe what Ford actually wrote was he pardoned Nixon for any federal offenses that occurred between date X and date Y, where those were his presidency. So he didn't even identify what federal crimes they were, just global pardoned within a date range, which you can do. That's fine. Pardoned Clinton. Well, not directly. Carter pardoned everyone who was a draft dodger. Clinton happened to be a draft dodger, but he didn't pardon Clinton personally. He pardoned Clinton in so much as he was part of a category. That's a little bit different. Biden should do it. Biden will never do it. Biden will never do it. Democrat will never do it. Not anymore. Maybe someday, but not today. Biden would have to be the man, and he's not the man. Couldn't he temporarily enact the 25th Amendment to get pardoned? He could, but I don't think he has to. Right? Yes, he could, and like if he's president, he could enact the 25th to get the vice president, who would then be acting president, to give him a pardon. I just don't think he has to. I think the president can issue himself a pardon. That's my legal opinion. The language in the Constitution is unqualified. I think that a person can. I think the president can pardon himself. That's my opinion. Other lawyers disagree, but my opinion is the president can pardon himself because the language in the Constitution is unqualified. It's legal to blanket and hidden pardon people. I don't think there's anything that requires the pardon itself to be made public. Uh, Maybe the Presidential Records Act, but because it's the power to pardon, I'm not sure it matters either way. Um, so yes, I suppose the president could pardon someone in secret. I mean, it wouldn't be secret, and as when the guy who was pardoned would be like, you can't pardon me because of you can't uh, prosecute me because of pardon. So I suppose the president could pardon someone in secret, but it would have to become public at some point because if you're going to be able to rely on it, you're going to have to be able to expose it. So I'm not sure you could do it totally in secret. Although I suppose the president could. Well, the president doesn't even necessarily have to pardon him. I suppose he could order the DOJ to drop the prosecution. But anyways. Jerry M says unfair prosecution based on others have gone away with it. That's a defense. Others have gone away with murder. Why shouldn't OJ or Menendez? I said it was a political defense, not a legal defense. I've tried to say this a couple times at this point. His best defenses are political, not legal. That's a political argument. It's a political defense. It doesn't work legally. Am I not being clear about this? Because I feel like maybe I'm not being clear. Unfair prosecution that others have gone away with it. It's a political argument. It's a political defense. His best defenses are political, not legal. I've tried to highlight some of the legal defenses, right? I've tried to say, okay, I don't think count 34 and count 35. I don't think count 34 and count 35 are legally cognizable the way they're drafted. I'm not sure that that's what the statutes have in mind. So I'm not sure 34 and 35 are valid. You can make some factual arguments, because how do you know what was in the boxes at various times, because things that are in boxes move, and how do you know what was in what boxes, and so forth and so on. So there's some factual arguments that are had. I've highlighted some of the factual arguments that can be made. I've highlighted some of the legal arguments that made, and then ultimately said, yeah, the best arguments are political, not legal. I think I've tried to be very nuanced about it, but okay. So if pardon was written out but never published, made public, could another president void or veto it? No, not once it's delivered. No, not once the pardon is delivered. No. I think the president could change his mind on a pardon before he delivers it. So if he signs a pardon and then is like, nah, never mind, and then tears it up, I think he can do that. But once it's actually delivered to the person, no, I don't think he can revoke it at that point. It's executed at that point. So no. Does he have to be found guilty on all counts? No, one will be fine. Equal protection? Equal protection won't really work. Equal protection is basically selective prosecution, and you can't make it work. I don't think you can really make a selective prosecution argument work. That's really, really hard. And I don't think it works here. And you can try it, but it's not going to work, I don't think, ultimately. So yeah, equal protection, you're trying to make a selective prosecution argument, but that's really fucking hard. I don't really see it as particularly viable here. 499 from Jerry M. No disrespect, trying to learn. No problem. I sometimes I don't know what someone's intent behind a question is. And I also, as fans of my channel know, I tend to be, as many people are, their own worst judge. So when someone doesn't understand something, I tend to take it harshly upon myself because it's like I've failed because I'm a teacher. I am in fact a teacher. I've hired myself to be a teacher. So if you don't understand something, I often think it's my fault because I failed as a teacher. I have failed to communicate something to you. And so I tend to judge myself harshly. It is a trait that, of many people, um, you know, especially I think lawyers. I think lawyers as a personality trait. I think a lot of lawyers, and this is obviously not universally true, but I think it might be true of lawyers more than other professions, but someone else can correct me if I'm wrong. I think lawyers have a tendency to have people that have a profound sense of ego and also an incredible sense of worthlessness at the same time. They overly inflate their ego and also think that they're worthless. And so I think I fall a little bit into that bucket. Anyways, so I apologize if I was being abrasive. I was just like, am I not being clear about this? Because I thought I was clear, and your question implied that I wasn't being clear, and I was concerned about it. Anyways, carry on. What is a good political defense? Sound like it's a moot point. What good is a political defense? Um, well, because he's running for president, um, a political defense might help him politically. So if he can make a good political defense, it might outrage people politically, who then might take political action, for example, electing him, which would obviously be very helpful to him legally, because then he would be in a position to pardon himself. Um, it could also help him in a potential juror's mind, because if a juror thinks that what's happening is fundamentally unfair, then they're less likely to convict, not necessarily for legal reasons, but just because they think it's fundamentally unfair. So kind of like a nullification thing. Um, it also, to some limited degree, can be converted into legal arguments that will help to delay the trial, at least. Because you can argue things like selective prosecution and things like that, which won't really ultimately go anywhere, but you can stall for a while based on it. Um, and also, ultimately, if he goes down for it, would allow himself to be cast in a martyr as a martyr in history. uh, potentially. Um, so those are some of the benefits, I suppose, of a political defense. And I apologize if I was rude or snappy with you. That wasn't my intention. Sometimes it's hard. Also, for those of you unfamiliar with my channel, I've talked about this a lot before. I suffer from clinical depression. And so sometimes I take criticism or perceived criticism a little bit more to heart than someone else might. And I'm sorry if that was the case. Sometimes I um, respond in a more, with more self defense mechanisms than might necessarily be warranted. I'm doing my best. Trump is doomed. I think ultimately, my initial analysis, and this is all off the cuff, right? I'm reading this and I'm thinking about this for the first time as we're speaking. And I haven't thought through everything and I haven't thought about everything. My initial analysis is that Trump is in a negative position. Let's go that way. Trump is behind. I think the government can make its prima facie case. They have the documents. They obviously found them in Mar-a-Lago. Let's just assume all this is true, right? Let's just assume it's true because I think it's true. Here's what I think is true. I think he had the documents. I think they found the documents in Mar-a-Lago. I think they found it in those particular boxes in Mar-a-Lago. They have the documents. I don't think they are classified. I don't think there's any material. I don't think there's anyone who can testify that they're declassified. And I think that they've got them on possession of classified documents. That's what I think. And we can stall, we can fight around the edges, but I think ultimately they've got them at the end of the day. So, yeah, I think Trump is just careless. I think what Ben Shapiro has probably said is probably roughly correct. I listen to Ben Shapiro a lot. Ben Shapiro has basically said that Trump basically went, ooh, shiny, I like, and didn't really think about it much more than that, which is about roughly correct. I've often said before, I don't know that anyone else has taken this quip. So this might be an uncivil law original that no one else has stolen from. But I've often quipped that a lot of people say that Donald Trump has huge ego, but I think that's wrong. Donald Trump doesn't have huge ego. Donald Trump has huge id. Donald Trump has impulse control problems. And that's what I think is fundamentally the Donald Trump problem. And I think this is emblematic of that. This is an ego. This is id. Yeah. How much time are we looking at? I mean, effectively life. He's old. 20 years for each one plus. So life. Can't the president declassify it? Well, yes, he can. But that he can and that he did are two different propositions. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you did do something. Could President Trump have declassified them at will? Yes, he could have. Did he? I don't think so. Not really. No, none of the arguments really work. I don't think you can really argue that because he moved them in and of itself declassifies. I don't think that works. I don't think you can argue that it's not like he can just do it in his mind, right? He has to actually he might have the intent or desire to do it, but that he actually did it, I don't think so. Yeah. Well, he'll need to prove that. Yeah, he'll need to prove that he'll need to prove he declassified them. Yeah. If his argument is I declassified them, yeah, he needs to prove that. He needs to at least make an offer of. He needs to at least, at bare minimum, make the what's it called? The the burden of production. The burden of production. Even if he doesn't have the burden of proof, he has to make the burden of production. He has to provide some evidence. Even if you say the government has the burden of proof on the issue, which I don't think is true, but even if they do, which maybe they do, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they have the burden of proof. But even if they do, he has the burden of production. The burden of production is usually pretty easy. It's like the bare minimum necessary defense to raise the argument, and like he has to provide something, anything that says it. And I'm sure he can do that. I thought about it isn't going to cut it, right? So he can't even make his burden of production. I don't think. Burn of production is low. I agree. It is very, very low. You are correct. I'm not sure you can do it though. You are correct. It is very, very low. You are correct. It is extremely low, but I'm not sure you can clear it. That's how bad it is over here. I have my doubts. Is it guilty until proven innocent? No, it's not. It's just that his argument is I declassified them. If his argument boils down to I declassified them, right? No, the government has to prove each and every element of the crime, but they can do it. Right? He wants to make what we would consider an affirmative defense at this point, that they're not in fact classified them because he took action to declassify them. Well, he has to provide evidence of the action. If it's like, yeah, I took action to declassify them. Like what? When? Who? Where? It's like, yeah, you have to provide some evidence. Any evidence would be good. So yeah. Who made up these laws anyway? Which ones? The one that the criminal laws? Congress made them up. They're in the US Code, Title 18. Congress passed a law. Seeing as they concern federal property, federal documents, they have no problem with authority there. So they can just do it because it's federal property. They have the right to control federal property. These are federal documents. So Congress's ability to pass laws in this domain is not problematic. Yeah. Idrazir, you're right. Yeah, he could testify about it, but yeah, he can do it because, well, like I said it. Yeah, he could meet his burden. He could try to meet his burden of production by testifying about it. That should go over real well. That would be good. The management of classified information is through via executive orders. Typically, that's true. But the president's not bound by executive orders. He could have done it some other way, but he still has to do it. So that he didn't follow the executive order doesn't mean that they're not declassified. He could declassify them through some other mechanism because the president himself is not bound by executive order. Because he, as the office of the president, made it up in the first place. The executive order is something the office of the president made up. He's currently holding the office of the president, so he can unmake it up at whim. But he has to still do it. Right? Classification, the underlying classification is congressional, like the entire classification schema. So he can unclassify it because he's the ultimate classification authority, but also by law. But he has to actually do that. Can the president appoint himself as head of Department of Energy? I suppose he could, but why? I wouldn't want to be head of Department of Energy. That sounds like a bad job. If he told Ace, I'm declassifying these, take them. If he said it while he's president and the aide can testify to it, that would be great. If he said that, yeah, I'm declassifying all these, take them, and he said that while he was president, and then the aide will testify to that, that'd be really super helpful. That'd be really great. If that happened, that'd be fantastic. Then he makes his burden of production. That'd be great. I'm assuming that that's not the case, but if that's true, that'd be fantastic. If the aide can be like, yep, President Trump told me I'm declassifying all these documents. I remember it was these boxes, man. I remember I touched each one of these boxes. Those were the ones he wanted declassified. I remember he told it to me on January the 17th of 2021, man. I remember exactly. If you have an aide that will testify to all that, that'd be fantastic. Oh, he doesn't need to be head of DOE to unclassify nuclear secrets. He can just do it. He doesn't have to be head of DOE to unclassify nuclear secrets. Yeah, he's the ultimate declassification authority. The classification rules don't apply to president. He can just do whatever the hell he wants. He doesn't need anyone's permission. Yeah. He doesn't need to be head of DOE to declassify the DOE stuff. He can just do it. He's the president. He doesn't need to be head of DOE. Will I be on Friday Night Frenzy? I don't know. I might take this one off. I need a shower at bare minimum between now and then. Yeah, president is considered the OCA of classification. You better believe it. The original classifying authority. You better believe it. That contradicts what I just said. Which part? I don't like to contradict myself. What did I say that was contradictory? DOE is under executive. That's true. Yes, the DOE is under the executive. That's correct. The president can declassify anything. That's correct. Yes. Someone said a federal judge can make a lawyer break lawyer-client privilege. Is that true? That's a little simplistic. A lawyer is allowed to break attorney-client privilege if a court orders it, but the ability of the court order it is a little bit vague and will be challenged again. I guarantee you. So he just said he couldn't do it. No, he can. He can. Maybe I misspoke. Maybe you misheard. I'm sorry if I confused. The president has absolute, total, unquestioned authority to declassify anything. Period. He doesn't necessarily need to follow any particular process. He has to actually do it, though. He can't just merely think about it or wish it. He has to actually do it through some mechanism. This can be done as a matter of fact. The example I always like to prove the point is the example I used earlier, right? The example I like to prove the point is the example I proved earlier. The United States has conducted a clandestine military operation in some foreign country. The clandestine military operation has gone south. Foreign country is pissed. Foreign country's ambassador comes to the Oval Office, knocking on the door, demanding answers. Right? The president doesn't necessarily have time in that moment to write a memo, and go through, 18 steps of declassification. So the president can, in fact, declassify it by just saying to the ambassador, yep, that was us. We did that. That was us. We did the thing. We did the military operation. We're really sorry about that. Also, here are the plans of how exactly we did it. Here's the super secret folder that details exactly how we did it with the, the Blackhawks and whatever. And here we are, blah, blah, blah. Right. And obviously, this doesn't necessarily require the ambassador to be in the room. The red phone rings. It's Moscow. Can't help noticing that you did this military operation. Would you like to talk to us about it before we nuke your ass? So the president can just share the information, and it becomes obviously declassified by the mere act of sharing it. But he has to do something like that. So that's an example. It can be that simple. It can be that simple. Yeah, the president, there is a process that the rest of the executive is supposed to go through. They quoted some of the executive orders. There is a process there are executive orders that apply, but they don't apply to the executive because they're made up by the executive. So they don't apply to the executive because who's he ordering? Himself? So the president is not bound by the EEO. He can follow the EEO. He typically does, but he doesn't have to. He just has to do a thing that indicates the intent. Handing the ambassador the secret folder will be fine. Telling the ambassador about it over the phone will be fine. Going on CNN and saying all the classified information publicly will be fine. He has to just do a thing that indicates that it's, open. Is this case unprecedented? Yes, it is. That much is sure. Yeah. Those can't be automatically declassified present alone. I doubt that much. Doubt very much. Some secrets, such as information national weapons, are handled separately under statutory authority. The Atomic Energy Act, you can't declassify unilaterally. I doubt that's true. I would question the constitutionality of such a law. I would question the constitutionality of such a law that says the president can't unilaterally declassify something. The Atomic Energy says DOE can declassify. President can appoint himself head of DOAs while not resigning. Yeah. I guess we could get into the finer points of the Atomic Energy Act. Do we really want to debate the Atomic Energy Act right now? Is that what we're doing with our time? We really want to debate the Atomic Energy Act right now? I suppose we could. We have nothing better to do. What am I drinking? I am drinking a Crystal Light. I'm drinking Crystal Light. 1 packet of black tea with lemon, 1 packet of raspberry lemonade mixed together. Fantastic. What do they have against him if it's that simple? That he didn't in fact do that. That's what they have against him. He didn't actually do that. That he can and that he did are 2 different propositions. They have against him that the documents are marked classified. They are classified, and that he didn't in fact do anything to change that, which he didn't. What did he do? What did he do? Did he write a memo? Did he change it? Did he tell somebody? What did he do? Just moving the documents around isn't going to cut it. Because the president of the United States moves documents around all the time. The president of the United States flies to Japan. He takes the classified information with him in his folder, in his briefcase. He stays at a hotel. He takes out the folder of the classified information and starts reading it. He leaves it on his desk while he goes take a shower. Is the information now declassified because it's at the moment on a bookcase in a Japanese hotel? No, that's ridiculous. So merely moving around isn't going to cut it. That he didn't in fact do it. Yeah, him bringing it home, I don't think cuts the mustard. I don't think that cuts it to be enough. Am I getting challenged over the law here in chat now? Is that what's happening over here on the Atomic Energy Act? What is MG law? President's authority to declassify anything anytime. That's what I said. And then Rose said, I know that. But drop the atomic. Okay, we're having dispute over the Atomic Energy Act over in chat right now. This is fun. Good times. Well, if he doesn't provide any evidence at all that he did it, the government be like, here's what I do. There's no evidence that he did. QED. I've proven it. I mean, there's no evidence he did a thing. We heard no one has testified that he did a thing. I mean, yeah, that's easy. He has to provide some evidence. Any evidence will be helpful. I think Trump should sue Biden for not allowing him the presidential daily briefing. He has no ability to sue. He can't sue. He has no right to it. He has no right to it. He can't sue. $1 from 30-day filmmaker, and this is apparently 30-day filmmaker's very first super chat. So thank you for giving me the first dollar you've ever given anybody. Why would he not declassify if it's so simple? I don't know. I don't know. It just never occurred to him to do it, He has to present some evidence. Like that burden of production. Like if he wants the jury instruction, he has to present some evidence that he declassified it. Or he's not even going to get the jury instruction about it. The jury won't even be asked to consider it. He has to present some evidence that he did in fact declassify it. And I don't think moving it from one place to another counts. I don't think that works. Because if it does, that raises some really uncomfortable implications. What other questions can I answer? I've got 500 of you here. How does this relate to Biden? Well, I suppose it relates to Biden in so much as Biden also had classified documents that he was keeping in his garage, which wasn't exactly safe. So at two Brute is a pretty good counter. So it relates to Biden that way. The political fodder is pretty good. Maybe I'll come up with some legal arguments. Maybe I'll listen to some, sometimes I listen to people and sometimes my legal opinion changes. So like right now, like I've given you my legal opinion. Maybe I'll come into more information. I'll change my legal opinion. Does it violate Trump's 4th, 8th, and 14th Amendment rights? Not that I see. No, not that I can see. Unless the underlying search was illegal, which I don't think it is. I mean, they can move to suppress, but I don't think there's a basis for that. Trump is just kind of incompetent. In some views, some versions of incompetent, yes. Ask Yeska says, what do you think about Clinton records case with the opposite decision on the same kind of case? I'm trying to remember that case. There is a case on this issue. You're right. Am I wrong? Did I say some bad things? Have I forgotten some law? Oh my God, I've forgotten some things. No. Let me see if I can find the case. Judicial Watch, National Archives. The United States District Court, District of Columbia. Did it go any further than that? I thought it was a Supreme Court case. Maybe it didn't. Did it stop at the district court? Just watch versus National Archives. I thought going further than that. United States District Court for Columbia. United States District Court for Columbia. I guess it didn't go further than that. All right, let's take a look at this. It's been a while since I read this case. So this is district level, right? United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Okay. So we'll take note right away that because this is U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, that it is non-precedential. Because it's from a district court, and district courts don't set precedent. Well, it's not binding precedent; it's persuasive precedent. So it only has as much value as its ability to persuade. The district court in Florida is not bound by this, but let's take a look at it and see what it has to say and see if it speaks to this issue at all. Because it's been a while since I read it, and I want to get it right. I really do. All right, let's see. All right, so this, for those of you paying attention at home, this is a Judicial Watch versus National Archives, United States District Court, District of Columbia, March the 1st, 2012, 845 F sub 2nd, 288. Let's take a look at this and see what it has to say. Judicial Watch brings this administration ask the court to declare audio tapes created by President Clinton to be presidential records and order them to assume custody and control them to deposit. Contends the defendant acted arbitrarily and capriciously under the Administrative Procedures Act by failing to exercise control over the tapes, not making them available under FOIA. Court grant the motion dismissed because plaintiff's claims is not redressable. NARA does not have the authority to designate material as presidential records. NARA does not have the tape and records, and NARA lacks any right, duty, or means to seize control. Which is true. Incidentally, they don't. That's one of the reasons they would have to refer to DOJ if they wanted to press it further. In other words, there's been no one showing the remedy would be available to redress. Okay. According to the plaintiff, President Clinton engaged historian to assist him in creating oral record, published a book entitled Clinton Tapes Wrestling History based on extensive conversations and tenure. Plaintiff offers that from relevant time periods, created 79 audio tapes, preserved not only his thoughts and commentary on contemporaneous events, but in some instances record actual events as presidential conversations based on the recording. Contents recordings capture verbatim of him being present, performing his duties. The gravamen, which is the gist of the complaint, therefore, is the tape should have been included in records, but he retained them in his possession when he left office. The defendant is unable to produce them. Parties agree the audio tapes are not in the government's possession. Presidential Records Act defines preservation of records as documents, materials, or any relatable, segregatable portion thereof created by the president or a staff whose function is to assist the president in a course of duties, blah, 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 blah. PRA establishes presidential records and personal records. Defining personal records as all document materials are reasonably segregable, a purely private or non-public character which do not relate. The PRA provides that journals or personal notes should be treated as personal records. Categorization of records controls what happens next. As another court observed, the PRA incorporates assumption made by Congress that subsequent presidents would comply in good faith. PRA provides operates with authority to invoke the same mechanisms found in another statute. When the archivist considers the public interest, he may deposit functions, grants the authority to notify the head of federal agency with threat removal, and notify the attorney general for redress, which is basically what we just did in this case. Seeks to address. Okay, so this is all about what are presidential records and what are not. Okay. Yeah, so this is all about what are presidential records and what are not. But these records weren't created by the president, so they're not presidential records, so this precedent doesn't apply. But thank you. It's been a while since I read it. So yeah, these are all about what are presidential records and what are not. So are things that are created by the president presidential records? In this case, stands for the proposition that the president has the ability to determine whether or not they're presidential records or personal records. This case doesn't speak to this issue because these records weren't created by the president, so they're not presidential records, they're governmental records. But nice question. I had to actually look it up. It's been a while. Let's see, where were we? Insert the chat. Let's see. $30 30-day filmmaker said, do we know that Trump did not pardon himself and kept it quiet? Well, it wouldn't matter because these offenses occurred after he was president, and he can't pardon himself for things that occur in the future. So even if he pardoned himself for all the things that occurred in his office, it wouldn't matter because these offenses occurred after he left office. But nice idea. New York Rel Leman sent buying documents from when he was senator. I'm not sure that's true, but okay. Presidential retroactive does not apply. Buying situations more severe yet undercharged. Okay. Legal Watch sued to get Clinton tapes and ruled the presidential records are personal. Yeah, well, we just looked it up and read it because I sped read a decision. I'm like, oh, well, let's just go back and read it, speed read it. So I sped read it. I'm like, oh, okay, that's right. Joseph says, if president has plenary power to declassify and complete authority, who else decides what's being shown as evidence? Well, I mean, there has to be something that proves it, right? I mean, otherwise, how's anyone supposed to know they're declassified? Right. So, I mean, the president can do something, but he has to do something. There has to be, I mean, there has to be something that shows it, right? There has to be evidence of some kind. So I suppose the court has to decide in this particular instance. There has to be some evidence of some variety that's showing that he did a thing that would lead to declassification. I mean, what that is open to interpretation, but something, anything. I'll take anything. Ask Yeska has been a member for 17 months. Thank you. Jerry M 4499. Which situation is more serious? Georgia votes, New York bragg prosecutor, New York situation I think is bogus. I don't think it goes anywhere. Mar-a-Lago. January 6th insurrection. I don't see that going anywhere. January 6th. Georgia votes, don't know enough information for sure. Depends on the details. This looks pretty serious. This looks pretty serious. This definitely got my attention. Christine Webster says, I have two questions. Sorry if it sounds stupid. I'm Canadian. That's okay. If convicted, how long could he go away to federal prison? Basically forever at this point. I think it's 20 years for each document, even if consolidated, but he's old. So life effectively is what we're talking about, really, practically. If he's convicted, how long can he go away to federal prison? How can the documents be declassified? He just has to do something, anything to make them declassified, but he has to actually do something. Anything will be fine. What did he do? What did he do to make them declassified? I don't think moving them around qualifies. Good questions. Good questions. Or was I in chat? Why is Pence not being charged too? Good question. Fair question. All right. Well, I suppose we have exhausted our time together. This has been fun. We had a nice 3-hour discussion on this. So my overall conclusions on this is I think Trump's in a lot of trouble. I think that he can stall and delay a lot of this. And I think his redress are more in political than in legal. It would help a lot if he gets elected. That in and of itself would preclude him from being charged because he's president of the United States. So the trial would have to be stayed while he's in office. And then he could pardon himself anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think he can just think it. No, I don't think that works. How long will it take before we get a verdict? I don't know. We're nowhere close to it happening, so I don't know. In a lot of trouble for what? Possession of classified information that was unauthorized to be in his possession. Which is a violation of the Espionage Act, basically. But if you've enjoyed this stream, please like, comment, and subscribe. All the rest of it, I will be on with more analysis. I look forward to seeing what other attorneys say about this issue. And if there are other issues I haven't seen, because obviously I can't think of everything, but my analysis is that Trump's in trouble. This looks pretty good. And I think he can stall and delay, but I don't know they can ultimately stop this. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes on. I'm going to sign off for now. I've been on Civil Law. I hope all is well. Cheers, my friends, and goodbye.